just say how amazing Michelle's pants are?
You can
It
say
is pajama day for Spirit Week,
Yes,
and you gotta rock the bat.
that's amazing.
Thank you, I'm very excited.
Or the bananas.
I know, I love it. You're going bananas.
I'm doing bananas.
You're live, I'll go check in the other room, just to make sure it's
Okay.
good.
I
but-
didn't notice
Thank you.
immediately until you said
Thank
that.
you.
I was joking about that too. So.
All right, let's go ahead and get started if we could. So welcome everyone, December 13th, 2021 workshop session. So we'll go ahead and get started now. Just the administrative thing, I'm still working off of I have all my notes on the agenda sent out Friday, so catch me if something was changed. I know we made a couple changes between Friday and today. But I have on there the finalized strategic plan. And I think, Cody, we're gonna push the finance till
Yes.
January? Yep, okay.
Yes.
So that's the only topic that I have on right now, and that gives us more or less an hour to have a discussion there. We'll try to finish around 6. So, I guess I'll just open it up for discussion. Did you guys get a chance, and we can refer to your notes? The drive file was linked.
Yes, and I spoke with Jeff on the phone on our snow day, and he and I were talking about that we didn't have much of a discussion last meeting, and so I'm really happy that we have a whole hour together if we need it. And he was saying, we really need to maybe talk about some of the input and some data that we have. So I actually put together a little PowerPoint. If you want me to go through it, I can.
Yeah, how long do you think the PowerPoint would take?
15 minutes or less. It's up to
Yeah,
you.
I mean, it's fine with me. Do you guys have other questions that we should try to address with the hour that we have scheduled?
Just that not anything huge, but when we're talking about the additions that were made, like the calendar days and flex days and stuff, we really need time to think about that. That was just,
That'll be not during the workshop. That'll be during the board meeting itself, right?
well, that's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
saying during the meeting, there needs to be time to really get into that a little bit. So if we wanted to start some of the discussion here, we can. It doesn't mean we have to, because we
you're
really
saying-
need
Okay.
time for strategic review.
Okay,
But just throwing it out, that was the only thing where I would,
Yep.
not want
good
it to cut
question.
too short.
Okay. Anything else on the strategic review that we want to make sure we cover? Then I would say, Cecilia, go ahead and, I think, are you able to share it on the smartboard?
Yes, I think so. And I follow Justin's instructions. Good. So I just wanted to take time to talk about some of the input that we consider, like the input that's important for us to consider, the input I'd like the board to consider to give this strategic direction essentially to the administration. And then, as we learn from Big River Consulting, the board sets the big direction, and then staff makes the path for how we get there with some SMART goals and things like that. But you really need to be considering the long term. You're the visionaries, and that's where I take my direction. And so, since we didn't really dig into the data that much or the feedback that much last month, and we also didn't maybe really feel comfortable having a good, honest dialogue about, what makes MSA successful, then I thought I would pull together some of the feedback. This is not all inclusive because it was last minute to pull this together, and we're still covering for Leela. So I wanted to just share a few highlights. So the data sources, I used about 9 data sources here, starting with our surveys and focus groups from the Big River Group, but also recent climate surveys, 2020, 2019. We don't yet have this one because it's in process. The values clarification survey that went out this fall about the new director, there was some stuff in there, some quantitative data. So not comprehensive, but really getting sort of these big themes organized in a different way than I had them last time. I think it's very important for us to talk about I call it the student petition, but last April, students came to the board meeting and shared a letter with you all, kind of a list of demands. This is a very critical and important document, and it didn't get enough airtime last spring because of everything, and it hasn't gotten enough airtime yet. It's important to us in our planning. Our students are speaking to us. And so things like that are in here. Sorry this font is so small. Anyway, some of the strengths that we have here at our school, I think it's important to be strength-based, right? And we should think about, the board should think about how to leverage our strengths and make sure that we use them to grow. And so almost all of our staff believe that, MSA fosters a safe learning environment, for example. Everyone in the Big River Group survey staff clearly said what's working is we have great staff, small class sizes, and the new administration is doing a good job. And all of these other things, staff feel their voices are heard, staff feel free to take risks. These are important strengths that staff report. In the climate survey, almost all staff said they enjoy working here. Most feel they're treated fairly, and this is a favorite of mine. People do feel that MSA is a special place. I believe that MSA is a special place. That's what we don't want to lose, right? That's what we want to make sure we keep. In the Big River Group, the parents also said great staff, small class sizes. Parents like the homework, students do not like the homework. But students said great teachers, they like the schedule, and they love their classes. So, these are really important things to celebrate. In our quantitative data, you guys know this, our students do very well on the tests of college readiness. 79% of our kiddos met the math benchmark for college readiness last year, and 92% met the English reading writing benchmark. ACT, same thing, nice high scores. These are not all MSA students take these tests, but those who took it score well. We also have a high graduation rate. The underside of this is we don't retain even half of the ninth graders who start with us. So, thank you. I think, is that one? There you go, thank you. Other staff positives from 2019, enjoy working here, feel comfortable, feel challenged, feel safe. These are really important things. The value survey, students value excellence, community, and respect. Staff values similar things, respect, community, and excellence, different order, but same things. So curriculum-related feedback, there's more. I really ran out of time, but one that stood out to me is the parents focus group, or the parent survey, rather, wants more focus on math and science and enhancing our curriculum and our extracurriculars around math and science. So some of those outside of school fun activities. I'll go faster here. Things that need improvement. A lot of parents, students, both say we need more sports, more extracurricular, more opportunities, have sport fields. So this is related to expansion. They also want time to participate in music, arts, and sports. So it's kind of like more electives. This is where we get into some of the the staff concerns. Staff shared in 2020 and 2019 climate surveys that some of them noticed their fellow teachers only wanting to work with the smartest or the hardest working students. With that attitude, students will continue to struggle. Some teachers don't interact with students with disabilities in their classes at all. They just count on the education assistant to be the intermediary. Some staff said they need other staff to understand being flexible to help other students. Some staff worry that the goals of the school outweigh the needs of individual students. And some say we're stuck in being a school of rigor so much that we miss out on the fact that several students are struggling. So some also commented things like we can still be an academically excellent school, but still be flexible with all students, not just the students that sort of fit our image of an MSA student. Other concerns about MSA failing to meet all student needs, this was a theme. The students said in their petition, and there were 8 individual stories. I put the petition, I sent it to you as individuals and it's in the board folder. 18 individual stories of students here experiencing bias, racism, and discrimination. We need to take those stories seriously. Students in focus groups this year said we need a more diverse staff, looks more like the student body, and they want to promote diversity and close the achievement gap. So these were some quotes from the student focus group this year about students with disabilities not getting the help they deserve. Sometimes one person said it's not up to the special ed staff to do everything for students with disabilities. You know, there's talking about classroom teachers needing to own the students with disabilities. Students want teachers to be aware of how to change the curriculum based on student need and be more willing to change it. So things like that were common themes. And then this is from the student focus group. Students are wanting MSA to focus more on a well-balanced academic and social emotional preparation for students. They were expressing that it's too heavy only on the academics, and some even use the word that high pressure focus on academics only can be toxic for some students. Some are feeling overwhelmed with the amount of homework. Some feel it's not as engaging, it's more busy work, then it's maybe not valuable homework for them. Some were concerned that failing students don't get help and they feel like they need to leave. And some asked for us to provide them more information about how to get help if they're struggling academically or emotionally. And students want more ways to connect with each other and build a sense of community. So those were kind of some of the high-level concerns. And then in our test data, which is only the MCA data right now, our MCA data last year for students of color was quite a bit lower than it was the year before. We don't want to put too much stock in, as we talked about in last year's MCAs, and we do need to evaluate more different data sources to really understand our achievement gap, but I think it's a very important thing for us to be paying attention to and tracking. Academic concerns from students, this is from the focus group. They're wanting more in-depth critical thinking, more of the why and the purpose, less of sort of knowledge level. They really are seeking to more fully develop their understanding of concepts. Some of these actually relate to the schedule, because some of that's really hard to accomplish in a short class period, 47-minute class period. Everyone, staff, students, and parents all want our teachers to be paid better and to recognize that many of our teachers work second jobs, that EAs don't get paid over breaks, things like that, and they want us to retain our good teachers and respect them for their hard work and their excellence. Expansion feedback from staff. People really want to expand. They want to have larger classrooms for science rooms, things like that. They want to be able to improve communication. This is a huge efficiency thing for me. If we were in one building, it would be so much more efficient for office staff too, and so many things. More emphasis on math, science, engineering, computer science. students said we need more space, we need more room in the hallways, we need bigger buildings. Sorry, this is tiny. In our focus groups, organizational consistency and structure. So planning consistent, constructive meetings where staff can have input was one of the biggest sources of staff input in our 2 to 3 things that need improvement, according to the work we did with staff this year through the Big River Group. And so from the past climate surveys, the data also was about the hours and the shared spaces, that we don't have the right environments to build. We're spread out in 4 buildings, don't have the right environments for staff to build positive relationships with each other. Some do worry that expansion will add extra burdens to their plates, to the staff plates, and staff wish for more time to plan together as departments. Almost done. Communication and climate concerns, those were big things. Communication, purposeful communication with, from staff to families. That was one of the things parents said needs to improve. We talked about this a lot. They want consistent, efficient, correct communication. They want it less frequent but more purposeful. And staff also said that's one thing that needs to improve in the climate surveys. They want better communication so staff are on the same page. Consistent communication to staff and parents so staff and parents are on the same page. Some of the things that stood out in the climate surveys, 37% of staff disagreed that there is effective communication. That was in 2019. And some concern about staff bullying in the past. Let's hope we don't have that anymore. And then students don't know how to get involved in the MSA community and are not satisfied with the course offerings. That's more climate than communication. Last slide was just a quick little bit on the retention of students. The budget really requires us to find a way to retain more of our students, and right now students are reporting a lot of reasons that they choose PSEO instead of staying here, and they're all outlined in that student focus group feedback and the world's best workforce. So I just threw that together, maybe help us, talk about the future, what makes MSA successful. So I'll be quiet now. I just wanted to share that with you.
No, thank you for sharing, and I think so that helps. I mean, I think it's gonna have to be always evolving, if you will, but as you guys know, just to set the tone, we have to set a 3-year kind of strategic priority. We have 3 buckets. Myself, Maggie, Cecilia went through here a week or 2 back to try to kind of wordsmith a little bit what we talked about, last month, and that's what you saw here. So I guess the questions that I think we want to focus on is, do we kind of agree these are kind of 3 strategic priorities? So student success, and then we have the organizational support and the facilities, both which support our mission and vision. And then I guess, so those are the 3 buckets that we've defined, and that should be kind of board level defined buckets, if you will, because that's kind of what we're tasking the administration for. And then we've actually called out, it looks like a couple dozen, specific items. So I guess maybe what would be interesting for us to discuss is, did we miss anything? Or do you disagree that these are on there and shouldn't be? So maybe, a couple of those things, because I think from this, we'll kind of say, this sounds like the right direction, please come back, administration, with your specific measurable goals against these things that we can lay out for the next 2 years. I guess one thing when I look at this, it's probably more than I was expecting, more bullet points than I was expecting. I'm fine with, this is my own thought, I'm fine with 3 buckets. I think that makes sense. How do you support the students? How do you support the organization? And how do you support the facilities? All of those things make sense to me, and I think that is clean. But there's a lot of things underneath there, and I'm worried the administration may get overwhelmed with 20 tasks, each one of which may take a month or so of somebody's time. And if you do the math, we have 3 years to finish this up, not even if we start January, finish 2025. So I just want to make sure that we don't overwhelm, because if we don't set, it's either we have to prioritize within this list and say these are the top 2 or 3 amongst each one that have to be done, and then the other ones, as I think you shared an example from another school, which is kind of nice, where they put them on the top. This is top down. So when this is finished, we'll move to the next, and we'll keep checking
Right.
against them. Because no school district is perfect. Every district has something to work on. We've got a long list here of feedback from our constituents, and it may not be possible to work on all of them at once.
Yes, if I could speak to that for a minute. I think when I put these, I was kind of just putting these things under their home, you know, where do these fit? These are important things, but they might be different grain sizes too, you know, so some of them might be sort of stub bullets. So this is just sort of a draft of items that are under those. And you're absolutely right, that's how I'm envisioning this is, you know, a plan that gets us to 2025. Some of these things go later, right? We have to prioritize, right, or we won't be successful. And some of these do go under other things, I think, too.
So anything to add, or, yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So, yeah, to start with, I did have a conversation with Cecilia, you know, last Friday, and trying to flesh out a direction and some of my thoughts on how we were going about this. And I'll start with like an observation or two, and maybe some things that we perhaps can do to improve this process. So number one, you know, when we go through data sources, and I've mentioned this in the past 2 meetings, all of our data sources are internal, and we're asking parents, students, and whatnot about what is happening here, which is all good, by the way. We should be doing that. But then when I look at the data we collect, I'm trying to draw the connection between what they're telling us and what we need to do. Well, 90% of the data told us we're excelling in these areas and what we're doing, but really there were only like 2 places where we were able to pull out areas that we had challenges that we need to improve. One of them being the petition, and that wasn't even part of our data collection. That was sent to us separately, and we need to address that. And some things having to do with expansion. People say, oh yeah, we're in tight classrooms. Okay, we knew that, so nothing new. But we have nothing connecting to what's going on in the rest of the world. We have no conversation on what 8033 is doing. You know, I mean, they're having a vote in a week that might say, hey, you know, here's our vision of how we're going to manage our classes and hopefully help teachers and students learn and go remote and de-stress. None of our conversation has addressed that. And in fact, these topics are, I mean, they're great buckets because we can start fitting things in, but there's nothing innovative about them. There's nothing that makes us unique. I mean, they're just operational buckets. And I'd like to challenge this group and us on how can we make it more unique? How can we be innovative? Because that's part of our vision. So, I mean, organizational support, and we obviously need to do that. But we don't even describe our categories in terms of verbs. They're things, they're objects. We don't say, hey, we're trying to achieve being a better school that's more academically, you know, and make or have students become more academically successful. That might be a way of putting a little more action into these descriptions. And if you, and I went online just to kind of touch, you know, other schools that have strategic planning, you know, charter schools specifically. We're not that far from them. I mean, they have similar categories, but, you know, there's one, they all have learning and academic and curriculum in that. And maybe it's embedded in success of students, I think it is. But if we look at, maybe we want to say, hey, success for students is on the learning perspective, but we need something from the teaching perspective. You know, so how are we going to help students learn better? What services are we going to help and resources are we going to provide? But on the flip side, the mirror image of that is how are we supporting the teachers? How are we designing our curriculum? What topics are we covering? What, you know, and if you Google trends in education, oh my gosh, your list's like we haven't even touched here. And that's what concerns me. We didn't even do the research. We haven't had a chance. And frankly, it's a resource thing. I know that. But that's why I'm not sure we're as far along in the process as we'd love to be. You know, if we had perfect time and everything, we might be a little further, but right now, you know, we're at level 1 of 10 from a strategic standpoint. This is all relevant, this is all good stuff, but to call this a strategy, this is more operational. And, you know, operational excellence is great, we need that, but long-term, that's not an innovative strategy. You know, those are table stakes for getting into the charter school and doing well. Now, how do we make sure we are the best? And there's some of these topics here, you're right, Dan, in terms of, there's a lot of stuff. I don't know how we're gonna prioritize all this. But, you know, it seems like we're starting with solutions and we're still also at the same time wrangling what are those issues we need to focus on. And recategorize and do another iteration of that. And you need to do multiple iterations of that to make sure that we understand where we're headed and incorporate how well we've done. So while all this is good, all this needs to be done, I don't know, there's that just missing segment for me personally to get us to being able to call this truly strategic and looking 5 years out. Now, the good one is expansion. That is a long-term project, so almost by definition, that strategic has to be because we're looking out 3, 4, 5 years. Everything else, I mean, we didn't address, I mean, one of the top priorities for this year is organizational culture, right? Supporting teachers, making sure we develop the trust, and make sure all those things fall into place. Really, it's very piecemeal in how we're mentioning it right now.
Jeff, can I just add?
Yeah, anyway, so let me stop for a minute, sorry, that's just an absolute brain dump here, so.
I think our job is to agree on the 3 to 5 big strategic directions. The things underneath are drafty, that the board sets the direction. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about that, the big picture.
And that's good, but then, okay, let me go back to my first comment. You know, we've left half of this unresearched, so we have not defined the universe of what some of that might be.
I have something I'd like to say.
Yeah.
And this is, I think this is a really, really good discussion. I guess, I don't want this to be contentious, but we have a house on fire. Like, we have a petition that has to be taken care of. We can't build a new house when our current house is burning down. We have to fix the things that are there. So I think the challenge is, how do we be strategic? But we also have to just fix it. Like, we have to solve the problems that we have in front of us right now. That is our job as a board, is to help ensure that the leadership, that this group, that the student body, that the teachers feel like there is support to actually solve what's in front of us. We can't build mansion until we have fixed the leaky roof and fixed the bathroom that is, you know, the toilet's not working or something like that. I guess I totally agree with you that there is a strategy in here somewhere, but we first have to solve like the real problems that we have in front of us. Another thing, just really quickly, a mentor once I think said something to me that stuck, and he said, "Don't ever let great get in the way of good enough." And I don't mean that from a standpoint of not expecting excellence. I mean it from a standpoint of we have to be really careful that if we go too far, we will fail, because we will not have set a realistic goal for us to be able to actually attain. And the first thing we have to attain is let's get our house in order.
And I agree with you 100%. And your conversation is drawing back to the operational priorities.
A little bit, absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
But we're here, and by the way, I'm not saying don't talk about that.
Yep.
But we're here to talk about strategic planning.
Yep.
And I know it's not mutually exclusive, both topics are intertwined. But we've spent all our time on the priorities because, as you say, for a long time, and it continues, the house is on fire. But we cannot continue to stoke that fire year after year because we don't address strategic planning. And if you look back, you know, part of strategic planning is we look back and see what we've achieved and what we've done well and what we need to continue to do better. And I think some of the, you know, in fact, the data that we collected in focus groups shows that we do have a really great opportunity, and we do well at maintaining operations for the benefit of our students. We go out of our way, and things are happening, but the students hopefully are learning and are successful. But even one question is, and actually it addresses specifically what you just mentioned, part of our strategy should also be how do we continue to build resources, to address, in fact, all this. We didn't even address that.
That's very much a part of it really quickly because
Right.
we could all pat ourselves in the back for accomplishing something,
Yeah.
but then not look at the carnage that was left behind to actually get there. We all like high five that we did all this, but then everybody's dying along the way because
Right.
there's not enough people, there's not enough space, there's not enough resources to
Right.
actually make it happen.
So envision this. We've been talking about expansion from a building perspective, mostly. I mean, it kind of galvanizes that topic into something that's understandable. But maybe the issue is expansion, and let's force ourselves not to look at it as it's the building. No. It's everything else, whether learning, capability, communications, and rather than come up with solutions for issues that we're still trying to understand, we kind of, it's the whole thing about divergent and convergent thinking, right? Maybe we started convergent thinking before we, spend time on divergent. And that's purely strategic, because when you're trying to do it operationally, it's all about convergent. Let's find out what those things we need to address, prioritize, get it done, and move on. That's totally the opposite of what strategic planning is. So, Cecilia asked a great question in our conversation. So what do we do about it? And I wish I had that crystal ball and those great suggestions. I do have some suggestions, but I also want this group to, it's got to evolve within this group. It shouldn't be Jeff's going, okay, I'm here to solve your strategic planning process. We need to feel comfortable that everyone knows that they're asking the right questions and seeing that bigger direction. And the good part about it is, you look at this, I don't think we disagree with, philosophically with a lot of the things on this. I would take that extra step and think deeper, further. I mean, have we even looked at 833's strategic plan? Do we even know what they're planning? And all the charter schools that take, that we can't compete with, do we even know what they're doing? Because if we don't, how can we possibly come up with a strategic plan? And that's just from experience in the corporate world and just trying to understand the situation.
Do you have a comment?
I would say I think it's kind of a little bit of both. We do need to have things that we need to do, but those are like this year problems, not necessarily like if we can take more time to fix some of our policy and procedural issues that perpetuate a number of things, then I think that moving forward, the strategic plan is more reflective of where we want to be versus fixing where we may have been. So I think if we focus on some of the fires and genuinely look at root causes, some of them are staffing and some, those are definitely it. But I do think that Jeff has a very good point in the sense of, it's not that I don't want to know how we support the school, the students, and the facilities, but again, I do agree that how we support the school, the students, and the facilities, that's a list of actions that we are taking versus what is our mission? Are we being innovative? Are we doing those things? So I think you're both right, but just like for different time periods of where we are and where we need to be. I would hope if we are able to address some of the issues, they aren't systemic anymore. That's the goal. That would be the hope. But I don't know. I feel like we can.
One thing, Jeff, that you said that I think was really important is that benchmarking piece. And if we don't have that data, I do think that's important. It's really easy, if we talk about corporate for a second here, it's really easy for executives to be so disconnected from the day-to-day that they have these strategic plans that have no bearing whatsoever on the day-to-day activities of what's happening in their organizations. That's dangerous. So I think there is a bit of both where, okay, we have these boots on the ground activities that have to happen in order for us to feel and know that we're connected to that strategic plan. And that benchmarking piece, actually, I'll just go back to that again. I think that's really, really important. If we haven't done it, then yeah, that should definitely happen.
Just a quick one. I think we can and should do that. I'm a little anxious, or not anxious, that's too strong. I think we challenged our mission and vision, right? I mean, we went back and said, let's be open to, are we moving in the right direction? We came back with a few changes which are significant, but they're not overhaul, right? We're saying we want to be more inclusive. That's the one thing that we've added for all students, right? So I think that's kind of strongly implied in there that we're not just picking and choosing. It's for all students, and we're going to be more inclusive. So I think we've done a little bit of that work, that self-reflection and saying, are we moving where we want to? When we look at, because I think Apple, versus Google and everything, and Apple is going to do what Apple thinks is right for their customers, right? They're not going to see what Google is doing or what LG is doing. There will be somebody who says, oh, this is cool, and we'll take that idea and make it better, of course. And that's where I think we can learn from, is if they have some great ideas out there that we've missed, that we have not incorporated. But I don't want to look to other schools and say, let's do what 833 is doing, because we are supposed to be special, right? We're supposed to be doing our own thing. And that's why I'm proud of the fact that our mission and vision that was set up 20 years ago is there. I mean, that's a solid one, and it's bringing in students and it's bringing in parents, and people are saying, we want to come to MSA, you guys are getting the results, and you're moving in the right direction. So I think you're right, we have a few the fires to put out here or there. I like the idea that we're giving some credence to the administrative team to say, these are the things you need to get fixed, because they're holding us back from delivering on our mission and vision right now. There's a dozen of them or more. And so it gives you a little bit more impetus, if you will, to go out and do that, as opposed to just, kind of keep coming to the board asking permission. It's saying, go and do these things and come back, right, with the plan on how these will be done and how quickly. I guess for me, I am more operational. I would like to see those come back and you say, this is going to take 3 years, this is going to take 3 weeks. And we can go through as a board and say, please get some of these done quick out, and we can help there. I mean, you need to come back with what you think from the administrative is going to be the easy, quick wins that we can tick off, and then there's going to be some expansion example is going to take years. So what's the goal for the next 3 years for that expansion is probably not everything. But I also like the point that was brought up, which I think, Jeff, you were mentioning. I mean, a building could help with communication. A building could help with teachers and student success, right? So it's not just another building for building's sake. I mean, financially, it's going to help too. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why, and I don't think we've done a good enough job yet to our constituents to say why expansion is required, because you occasionally get those notes, people are scared. Change is scary, right? So why are we changing? And we need to drum that up a little bit. So anyways, that's my soapbox. But maybe can I go around the room? Annie, I want to make sure we don't run out of time. Any concerns or questions you have with?
No, I think what I'm hearing, I do like, that's why Undercover Boss is so successful. People go in and do the fields part, right? I mean, I don't think we've done probably enough on that level. That's what he's talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Actually seeing that if the strategic plan is really, but I look at these and I like a few of them. I think they're big. I think we picked the big ones. I look at the retention of students. That's something that's long term. It's not going to change overnight. We've had this problem forever. So I look at that. I like, okay, how can we work on that to keep high school kids? We have achievement gap. That's something we've had going. The expansion. So I think if we have too much, it's too much, especially in light of some of the healing. I don't see it as a house burning down. I've been here since, and I was here last year. I feel it is a healing in some sorts this year. So I feel like people,
Excellent.
I actually want to tell you, people who say our house is burning down, I say to you, that's a really ignorant thing to say. I'm sorry, because we've really been through a lot here, and we're trying to do our best, and better than our best. So I don't like that comment personally, but
I'm sorry.
so because you don't know until you're here, right? So that's my thought, and I think we need to see if there's something we can have. I think too much is after the scars we have had and healed. It's too much. We need
You
to.
think the list is too much,
Well,
too many
I think
things?
she was saying like
We'll have to
20-something,
sort of-
25, like it's too much. Let's pick one. We need to. I feel expansion has to happen. It's too much stress with all these buildings. I feel, that's just my thing. That has to happen. I feel we have to have, in order to finance it, we have to have retention of students. There's just pieces that should come together, I think.
So to build on that, Annie, sorry, I mean, should we help prioritize as the board, or should we have the administration come back with?
One of the things I feel, and I don't mean this negatively, but I feel like we have a lot of new people and they don't know how to ask the question.
We have a
So
what?
we have, it's like inquiry labs, they don't know how to ask the question, so we're asking people who've never been a part of MSA and don't know some of the histories, and they're doing things, and I don't mean that negatively, but there's things that never have happened and so I feel like it's like an inquiry lab. You don't throw kids to a lab. You actually prepare them for, you can't have a kid do an inquiry lab till they know how to ask the question. And I feel there's just too much new yet. That's how I feel. And I feel that that's been a problem this year, not I don't mean that negatively, because boy, you all have hustled, believe me. But there's a lot of changes that really should have been, some of the historian parts being pieces. That's part of why we were successful, that I feel that decisions are being made different when that was a piece that made us successful. Don't fix what's not broken. So I feel it needs to have maybe some other components of people who've been here in with that. Why I put that on you, and you really sometimes don't know how to ask the questions, and why should you? You've never been here. So that's how I feel. And that's caused some stress, I feel, for me anyway, and for some, not in a bad way, just different.
What sort of lab was that?
I'm just saying inquiry lab, people,
Example.
there's two things, inquiry labs, like that's what a lot of teachers just toss a kid on a lab. I teach them how to ask the right question, and then they build a lab, and it's always more successful, because then they know what the question is and how, but if you don't know the question, if you don't know the history, it's hard to come up with a solution, because you don't even know how to ask the question. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so I feel that's
Actually-
been tough.
I'm gonna go to Sydney next. Anything we could or should change?
Have you seen this list?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
I think it is a lot at once, and I think, like, students should be asked a lot of their opinion too, because, like, just throwing a bunch of stuff, because this year's been a lot of change, like, just stuff that keeps happening, and we don't know what's going on. A lot, like, especially, like, conferences, like, the way that it was changed so suddenly, and
And
then,
the schedule, I'm sure.
yeah, and all the scheduling stuff that keeps changing is, like, we don't really know what's going on until it happens.
Hmm.
And there's like no way to like, we don't know who to ask necessarily, like, to explain like what's going on.
Yeah.
Also.
Good, thank you. Sandy? Oh, Cody, go ahead.
I definitely think we have a great list here. I think we need to kind of identify things that are, all of them need to be started, but some probably are high priority this year, and then high priority next year, and then high priority the following year. I'm also thinking that, when we're talking about operations, over half the board is never here during the day. I think maybe some of, like, I haven't been in a classroom in 13 years.
Because you don't fit in the desk anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I barely fit in them when I graduated. So maybe some of us board, community and parents need to come and like shadow a teacher for a day. And actually, because I feel like I'm making decisions in scenarios that I'm familiar with because I was a student here, but things are definitely different. So I think, I don't know where that, I guess that fits in maybe organizational support. Because I think we're making decisions on, or being asked decisions to make things that I don't have a good enough perspective on that the teacher board members would have.
I think my comments were a great example of that, on how you reacted to that. Like, I saw the petition for the first time today, and it just made me angry. I got angry, but I don't have any context or history of what happened, so I apologize that that came across that way. But yeah, I think that's a great example of, we're sitting here making decisions around strategy that has a lot of impacts to the work that all of you are gonna have to do. Then, yeah, let's walk a mile in those shoes for a second. I think that's a fabulous idea, honestly.
Maggie, can I go to you?
Sure. I want to piggyback on Annie in that with all the admin being new, it's very stressful in that, and because I've been here so long, every time there's new admin, it's that not knowing what to ask. And then you sit there and these decisions are made and there's a reason why it hadn't been changed before, but that wasn't asked. And not that it can't be tried, and not that it can't be done, but just there's a reason probably why it was that way before. Just to ask the question, why is it this way, maybe sometimes, or is there a reason why this is being done a certain way. Because when decisions are made, even if it's something that doesn't bother me, it might bother 4 or 5 other teachers, and then I'm hearing about it, and I'm like, I don't know why it was made. It wasn't a big deal to me, but it is to them. And that's just a learning thing. The longer you're here, the more you get to know things. And so, and even when Cecilia was going over the stuff and the stuff that the comments were made, and not that they shouldn't be taken seriously, but when it's, you know, and you're like, some people said, well, is that 3? Is that 15? Is that, because some is, I don't know what some means. Is it the majority of them? And not that it still shouldn't be taken seriously, because it should be, but to me then is that a major issue on the list, as opposed to something where a majority of people are saying, you know what we really need is X. And not that that can't be looked at, but I don't know if that should be a priority then. Even if it's a pet project or something that bothers me more than other people, that shouldn't be a priority. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because that's something that I'd be like, yeah, I want that fixed. That's just, you know, me and 5 other people, but when 90 other people want something else, I just think that that's important. I would like numbers. And I'm not even a number person. Let's be real, because I'm not. But it's a lot, and I would like to see what other schools are doing. Like, I just would, just because that interests me. What do their plans look like?
I did look at 833, and there's a lot of links that go nowhere.
Well, and that's interesting.
Just so
welcome
you
to
know,
that.
just so you know, I mean, you go there and you want,
Yep.
like, it seems like it's gonna be and you get a 404 error or something.
Well, and again, too, like, it's a work in progress. And I think that's important to remember, too. And that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I also would like to echo Maggie's and Sydney's suggestions as well in terms of the data, because if we're using our data as a factor in our decision making, then do we have representative samples? So when we're looking at our focus groups, was there overlap between one focus group and student action group? Like, how much overlap is there? Were all grades represented? Were PSE, you know, so just if we're using, and I want feedback, but again, is it representative?
Well, and this was September, right?
Mhm.
To me, now it's a December. So, and September was everyone was so new. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's happened since September that might change people's opinions and ideas of what would be important as well. And again, you can't just constantly
Oh, yeah, I
survey
mean, you
people
could-
either.
yeah.
That doesn't
Yeah,
work
for
either.
sure.
I get that.
But yeah, I think I'd like to know some additional, like, numbers data. How many total students, how many total families, how many total staff
59
responded?
students.
So what about, and did everyone get a chance to kind of share a few?
We skipped Sandy.
Oh, I
I'm
thought
sorry,
you,
I jumped
I
in.
thought it was, okay, go ahead.
I feel strongly about, like Sydney, Maggie, Annie, Michelle have said. When I first heard the presentation, the numbers, how they come off seem so dismal. And I think our environment of healing has been much better this year, but I feel like the wisdom of those who have been around, and not even myself, but people who have been around even longer, that wisdom has not been looked at. And when we're promised there's not gonna be any more changes, there's a whole bunch of more changes, all for good intent, But then whether it's the locker numbers or the lunch schedules or the, you know, whatever it might be, it's painful. And then it seems like even looking at this, there's even more schedules that are changes that are coming up that nobody even knows, that are gonna have lots of effects, but no one was asked, and it seems like it's gonna be a huge problem when what we have, given we're the #1 school in Minnesota, what we've done in so many regards is positive. And then, let's see what else I had, one other thing. Oh, on here, when I look at improved teacher pay, and I'm not a fusser about teacher pay, But when I see this improved teacher pay and that we're gonna get paid closer to 833 and all this, I feel like that is just unrealistic. Because what's the plan? We only have so many students, and we can get, so many more students in the next year or 2 years, but short term, this improved teacher pay isn't reality. It's not really backed by anything that I'm aware of. So just saying it seems disingenuous, because I don't know how that can occur.
Well, and to piggy off that one, improved teacher pay, kind of, to me, basically, the more students we have, or we need more students to have more money, but if we want to keep small class sizes, then we have to hire more teachers, so all that money, extra money gets spread out even further. So, I don't know what we can do to address that, but it's kind of the having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah, I think that point.
And
That's
I
a-
wish I could wave my magic wand and fix that problem, but.
And we can't have 20 students in some of our classes, especially our AP classes, and by keeping all of our AP classes, we're lowering potentially the PSEO classes, so there's some balance there.
Yeah.
But if we're trying to put 20 classes in, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna have 20 classes in my AP and Calc 2 next year. But we should have it because we need it for our students.
So I think, so these are good ones, and that's what I asked for, was the feedback on the specific ones. I think we also have to be careful of not solving all of the problems here, because I think the problem is teacher pay.
Yes.
And what is the solution for it? Could be expansion, could be other things, right? So I think it's gonna take some more meetings, Cody, to go through the finances and say, how can we get there?
Yeah, another theme I'm here, so, the problem with a lot of these things, it's gonna be changes this year, and I think people are getting tired of changes? Is that a?
So nobody said these are gonna be changes this year. This is a
Well, I just
3-year.
wanna, so, are we
Right.
gonna make a plan for things to change over the summer for next school year?
But-
Or
So I
how-
think what we're doing is we're asking the administration to come back and say,
Yeah.
what is the plan, right? So we're saying, here's where we're going, we're maintaining our mission and vision. We've made a few small tweaks because they weren't incorporated initially and they need to be in now. And here's a few things that we've identified through the data that we've looked at as top priorities, whatever you want to call them, their organizational, their support. So I'm not expecting that everything will be done next week or that everything will be done in 3 years. There's going to be a wide range of plans coming back. And I also expect every month the administration will come back and share with us how we're going against this strategic plan, right? So part of the administrative update I expect every month will be, here's what you asked and here's where we're at. This is going to cost this much money, this is going to take this long a time. So nothing is going to be done in a vacuum. I think we need to be sensitive to change for change's sake, but there will be change. There has to be change from today moving forward. And we just don't want, I think Sydney's point is, look, we're getting a lot of change thrown at us. We've got plenty of change from the world happening to us as well, and it's a little bit overwhelming. So we do have student mental health in here. That's a big issue that was brought up by more than one occasion in our data. And so we need to have a good solution for that too. Every school is struggling with student and mental health right now, I think, and
And I
ours is
feel
not
with the
different.
great resignation,
What's that?
with the great resignation,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
staff mental health. That's not addressed here.
And that's
So
a
if we're
fair-
gonna take care of students' mental health, and we are an empty water bucket, we don't have it here. So
That's a
we
fair
really-
point. That one we haven't had
That
on
have
the
not had
list,
it.
and I
And
think,
people
and
are
it should be,
walking.
and that's a good
People
point.
will
yeah.
walk right now before they'll let their mental health go anymore.
Cecilia?
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I just wanted to make a couple comments. First of all, this is the kind of discussion that's really helpful to me. I just wanted to make sure folks know, number one, we did the benchmarking that Jeff and Eric were talking about with the Big River Group process. That was our benchmarking process. Is there more data that we should continue to look at? Absolutely, especially as we build our SMART goals. They have to be measurable, so we have to have a from too. So there's more data to be looked at to build a plan. Second, when I say staff will flesh this out, it has to be teachers and administrators working together. So, this has been, up until now, administration managing a strategic planning process of the highest level in a super short time period. I mean, Bruce calls his process chainsaw planning, and it's because it's a chainsaw. And so the data was taken in October and November and even into December. I think the student focus group was very late. Anyway, so it's pretty current data. It's heavy on the qualitative. That doesn't mean it's the only thing. But I just wanted to respond to those things. And one more thing, and that is, the students who had provided input in World's Best Workforce and the student focus groups, they asked for some town hall meetings with administration and board members. And I would like to offer them that once a month, where they can come and ask questions. And I'd like to have administration and hopefully board members represented at that town hall meeting, because they do need an ongoing place. I'd like them to be advisory to us too, students. I know we have student council and I know we have some other groups, but it would be good to have them advisory in the planning too. So I appreciate all of this discussion.
So I guess what I'm hearing, I'll try to summarize. So great discussion, I think. Thanks for sharing open, honest feedback. That's what we needed tonight, so thank you. Is it set in stone? No, it's not, right? This is gonna evolve. We need something in place because that's what our authorizer is asking for. So I guess if we're in general comfortable with where we're at right now to meet the authorizer requirement, and then we can also continue to evolve things as needed, I think we're gonna have to have those discussions in the coming months and years as things change. Nobody knows next year, let alone 3 years from now. So this is our best guess. The other thing is prioritization, I think, was a common theme. So can we help in any way as a board to help the administration prioritize things?
Sure.
I feel like yes, of course we can, but I also don't want us to be micromanaging again, because we have done that in the past, and I think we're trying to steer ourselves out of that habit, which is a tendency of everyone who wants to help, is to hop in and help more than you need help. So let's make sure that we're having an open dialogue of how do we help with that. If you have too many things, then it's also fair to come back as an administration and say, I need a little help prioritizing, we can't do all these. And then we can have that discussion. Or we can do it the other way, where we can vote, or however we want to do, or rank, and come up with a general consensus on what we feel is, based on the data, the most important one. But I'm kind of, right now, I agree, maybe it's letting the rope out too long, but I'm right now asking the administration to come back and say, please tell us what are the most important out of the list that we're saying we need to have done, and see if that can work. Is that okay for everyone, generally? I don't need a motion, but just a head nod is
Can I ask, are you
fine.
comfortable just being new, to do that? I mean, do you understand our school, the depth and breadth of our school enough to do that? I mean.
So I think for tonight, what we'll look at in the meeting is your approval, which would help me very much to have your approval of the vision, the mission, and the top row of that table, period. That's it. Then we get going, staff and administration
Good,
together.
That's good, I like that.
Okay, and I need your help. Those of you who I talk to on a regular basis know we need your help. So, yeah, absolutely. And your history here is very valuable.
And the last one was the request for more data. And I think that's a fair one. We can and should always be looking to see what else we can kind of bring in, and good ideas that we can swipe, right? Or other charter schools that are doing a good job in particular areas, we could see if we can't bolt that onto ours as well. So I don't have a formal process for that right now, other than I think if you guys have, can we just agree to share them with each other if we see things that make sense? To try to bring them back to the group, and we can challenge ourselves, are we still doing it right? Okay, for everyone? Yeah, it was a good process. It was a little bit fast if you think about just a few months ago, we said, how about we do this, right? And now we're getting to the point we'll have a discussion for approval later in the agenda. But it's, I'm gonna say 6 o'clock, so I'm gonna call it here. We'll get a 15-minute break. For those of you watching, we'll come back at 6:15 Central Time. So, thank you. Ms. Dodge, can you turn the volume down, it was, right?
So you still have the microphone over there, right?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't even
I'm
see
just
that.
curious.
Thank you.
Point my head.
I was talking to starting. We have everyone here. All right, welcome everyone. December 13th, MSA School Board meeting. Yeah, welcome to those here as well as those watching online. So if we can, I guess we'll call the meeting to order. Sydney, can you read the mission and vision for us, please?
The mission is we provide accelerated curricula in all subjects with an emphasis on math and science. And the vision is to be innovative, sustainable model of academic excellence that creates well-rounded lifelong learners and global citizens.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention, please wear a mask. We're still struggling with the pandemic. Unfortunately, this carries on and on and on, but please wear a mask unless you're speaking, and if it helps with the microphone and for clarity, and you're comfortable, feel free to take the mask off for speaking. It helps for those watching at home. So we'll do a quick roll call. Danny Ellingson here, Maggie Burgraff.
Here.
Jennifer Bartle is absent tonight. Cody Schneep.
Here.
Eric Fair.
Here.
Annie Cardenas.
Here.
Michelle Kurkowski.
Here.
Jeff Eng.
Here.
Sandy Overson.
Here.
Great. So we are missing one tonight. If I could ask for an approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion
I'll
to?
motion to approve the agenda.
Annie motions to approve. Can I get a second?
This is Maggie, I'll second.
Maggie second. So all those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. So we can go on. Monthly celebration. So that's our next one up. Maybe I turn it over to Ms. Dodge.
Sure, could I ask Dr. Hinton to come to the podium and introduce the group? And maybe we could do the same thing we did with the cross-country team where we stand up at our seats and the group comes through the middle. This is a fraction of the group that's listed in your agenda, but they were here tonight. So we'll let Dr. Hinton introduce this group and tell us what this means.
So we're super excited. I don't know how many of you had a chance to come to our production of High School Musical.
Woohoo!
But it was phenomenal.
It was.
And our students did a great job and they were recognized and awarded. There were 40-plus students who got awards. 23 different honors were awarded. The individual honors were honorable mention and outstanding performance, outstanding tech team, and achievement in musical theater. We were very excited. Our theater director, Karen Biederman, is here. And then I will call the students who are here right now. Adam Axe.
We can stand up.
You can just, if you want to just come on through as I call your name.
like
And
elbows.
Karen, you can come on too.
Come on in the middle.
Right through the middle, yeah?
Maya Crandall, Kate Thurlow, Logan Schlosser,
Congratulations.
Lynn Inouye, Olivia Rodenke, and Ethan Silver.
Well done. Congratulations. Good job.
Awesome.
So we are very excited to congratulate them and the whole rest of the theater team who was not able to be here today, but an outstanding performance.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Ms. Dodge.
So if I could just add to that, so the group was, the play and the individuals were recognized by Spotlight Education, which is part of the Hennepin Theater Trust, and I believe got more awards than any play. I was at Edina High School's production of Mamma Mia on Saturday night, and they knew about MSA getting these awards, so.
We'll be performing at the State Theater in the spring as well.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a great example of showing, I mean, lifelong learners and well-rounded, citizens and students. So I think that's great. Thanks for bringing them here and for sharing this achievement with everyone. Super exciting. I didn't even know, some of those until I saw the list of the awards. So it was quite impressive. So,
Super impressive.
great.
Yeah.
Next one, we had open forum. I checked right before. I did not see anyone here for open forum. Please, if you're watching from home, we do ask that you come in person for open forum. If you have any questions, comments, concerns you want to share with the board, you're given about 5 minutes to come and share that in front of the board, and we get a chance to listen there directly. Otherwise, you're always welcome to connect with us individually as well. So, next up is the approval of minutes. And if I can get a motion to approve the minutes that were captured last month.
This is Maggie, so moved.
Can I get a second?
Cody will second.
Okay. Michelle, am I going too fast? Okay, thank you for stepping in tonight and helping with the notes. So all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
I have a correction.
Oh, sorry. Discussion.
Ooh, I know. It's under H, which is on, I don't know what page of the minutes, because I don't see a page.
Page 9.
Thank you. Under H on page 9, it says, media release.
Matamita is still growing.
It's not a charter, right? Matamita is not a charter? It
No,
was
it's a
school
public-
district,
yeah,
so it
it's a
says
district.
Matamidi Charter School. So it's from the Matamidi School District. That was what I caught, not charter. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. All those in favor approving the minutes? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes 8-0. Yes. So we have student representative update. Anything for us this month? Sydney?
Like with the increase in cases over Thanksgiving break, or like or is it like the district was thinking of like doing something after winter break? Because of the possibility of like a spike in cases. Does MSA have anything for that?
I can actually turn, yeah.
So we are gonna talk about that later on, because, right, South Washington County has a board meeting on the 16th where they're gonna vote to make some changes to their calendar. So we're gonna talk about it tonight, because if we were gonna make any changes to our calendar, we would have to do that tonight, because we have to vote on it. So, yeah, and then I can talk a little bit more about COVID in my director's report too.
Good, okay. Ms. Dodge, you're next?
Thank you, and did we get this out of order? I think the chair should go first, but we've got these out of order.
I purposely did
Oh,
that,
okay.
but if I'm going off of Fridays, and this is one of my pet peeves, but I'm going off of Friday's agenda, so if I say something out of order, let me know if you're working off of Monday's agenda.
It should be the same.
Okay,
It's those
but I
same-
purposely did it the other way. We can decide, and that was some advice that I was given, that a leader should be listening more than setting the tone. So
Would you
I
like
was
to-
intentionally putting myself last, but if it doesn't make sense, I can change it back.
No, I just was worried I messed up the order.
Nope, I did that, yeah, so.
Great, I'll just be brief because you heard me speak a lot in the workshop. I wanted to talk a little bit about COVID. We are worried because obviously if you watch the news, numbers are high, COVID numbers are high in school districts. We're still doing really well, but we have a COVID health aide, and her name is Becky Bogan, and she's working closely with Dr. Hinton, and she's doing a really great job. We are testing students and staff weekly and increasing the numbers of students and staff that are tested. That's really good. We did make a change that nobody was really happy with to try to get some increased distance between students at lunch. So what we've done is added a fourth lunch, sent kids from their fourth hour teacher. So they go based on who their fourth hour teacher is to lunch, I think. And so contact tracing is easier, because before the lunch schedule didn't make any sense where kids were coming from necessarily. And we've been just finalized getting barriers back on the lunch tables. Actually, 2 people are in the basement of B right now finishing building some barriers. Kids are not super happy, but we're trying to have them spread out, have a barrier between them, put their mask back on after they eat, and not thrilled that they don't have their lunch with their friends anymore. And it's taken a little tweaking, but we think we have them spread out pretty well. We sure can tweak more if we need to, but we thought that was the most important thing, because that's where kids are most at risk, because their masks are off. We are worried that if we have sick staff, we don't have enough subs to cover. There's a shortage of subs everywhere, and that's our biggest worry. And so we did try to brush up on new staff and new student Zoom skills so that we'd be ready to go to distance learning if we need to. And other than that, we just have to hope that every kid who's eligible gets vaccinated, staff and kids get boosters, and keep masking so we can stay open. That's the goal. Non-COVID news, well, first of all, back to that, we will put a really big emphasis on getting more subs once we come back from Christmas break, holiday break. We do need more subs, and we have a couple in the pipeline. Then the only thing else about COVID is actually that we got information that we have quite a bit of COVID funding that we were not aware of, which is fabulous. We didn't have a finance committee meeting, so I'll be ready for the next one with a budget and some ideas. Dr. Hinton and I are meeting tomorrow about some COVID planning. One thing that I would like to do, because we've had Dr. Olson out for a month now, and she's planning to return after the holiday break. We have a backlog of administrative things that we're really behind on. And now with all this COVID money, we need to do some planning to use it and not lose it, and use it effectively, and plan for a really robust summer program. We're trying to find a principal intern that would be paid like a teacher, but a seasoned administrator who could come in for the rest of the school year, just that much, to help us plan for summer, plan for intervening now, using COVID funding now to help kids who are struggling academically and behaviorally. And there's just not enough of the 2 of us to go around. And even when Dr. Olson comes back, we're spread thin, so we could more fully flesh out our positive behavior intervention and supports, for example, if we had a little extra help. So I think that would be smart use of the COVID funding. Otherwise, the shortage of administrative bandwidth is gonna prevent us from being smart with this money, and we're gonna not spend it. So.
Would that contract then come to the board next month?
It would if we find somebody. We won't just hire anybody, but it would.
Okay.
Would that person be considered full-time for that short period of time? Is that?
So from now till the end of the year, we would hope to find someone full-time.
Full-time.
Yep. And I got this idea when I was trying to reach out and find someone part-time, temporary, an administrator acquaintance. I called everybody I knew to come in and sub for Dr. Olson, because we really could use administrative substitutes, but we couldn't really find anyone. So anyway, that's all I'll share tonight, unless you have more questions for me. There's a few more things in your report.
Okay, good. Then we'll switch to the chair's report. I have a few topics. So first one, just want to remind everyone, we do have an investigation ongoing. We get regular updates. What I will share this time is we're in discussions now on how do we go through the findings, as well as how do we share those results together with the greater community. So I feel like we're getting, we're definitely making progress. Every month we're making progress, but you're starting to see some of the discussions about when can we bring that back to the group. So I'm feeling encouraged that we're going to have some things coming in the coming months. I don't want to put down an exact timeline, because I haven't been given an exact timeline, and we're not gonna hold them to it. We're gonna find out what we need to find out and however long that takes. But I just wanna share with the community, the investigation still carries on, and it's looking like within the coming months, I will say, we should have something that we can kind of bring forward. And we're having discussions about how do we share that with the board as well as how do we share that with the community. So, unfortunately, I can't take questions on that one. But the next one, I would just say the survey. So thanks for those who filled out the survey on myself. I appreciate that. I think it's always nice to see feedback from others, especially when it's anonymous, so you guys can be more honest. One thing I think I got some credit for is keeping us on task, and then I had other folks asking me to do a better job of keeping us on task. So I'm going to try to be the bad guy there and to put us back on task. So don't take it personal if I feel like we're kind of going down a rabbit hole. I'm trying to manage everyone's time and be respectful with the agendas too. And the other thing I will do, because I'm not very good at this, is I will let the people kind of chime in more freely, and I've been asked to kind of try to rein that in. So you'll see me maybe being a little bit more strict about, please, let's, maybe ask permission, especially if it's from the outside, coming in, asking me permission to speak, and then we'll bring them up to the podium. And I think that's also probably the right way to do it. It's just not my style, so please work with me on that one. And if I get lax again, call me out either separately or in front of everyone. And I'm happy to take that feedback. So I appreciate that. If you haven't, I think I sent a reminder out. I don't know who did and didn't, so I'm happy that I don't. And I was able through SurveyMonkey send out a reminder to those who haven't. About half of you guys haven't yet, so if you could take some time, it's just 3 questions, give me some feedback there. It's only going to be to your benefit if we can make some better changes. Then the next 2 surveys was the community survey and then the staff survey. The numbers that I've seen so far, so thanks for sending the reminder out. I was going to ask that we do that anyway. So we have until the community, we have until the end of this week, the 17th, to please get it in. I saw an average completion time of 3 minutes for the community. So if you guys could spare 3 minutes to give us some more feedback, it's going to be well worth your time. And then the staff feedback was 7 minutes. I'm guessing right around half of the staff that we emailed out had given feedback so far. So if the other half could do that this week, that would be great. And that's 7 minutes. It's a higher burden we're asking, but also you guys are much more involved, so we have more questions for you. So please take 7 minutes to fill that out. That's the average time, if you could do that. One more I missed on me. So a request to help with the policies, and that's something that I'm not strong with. So this is back to me again. So for policies, if I see like more than 2 or 3 pages, I'm lost already, and I just kind of skim it. And that's not what I'm being asked to do right now. And you guys aren't. We're being asked to help. Set the policies for the school, review the policies, and go through those in detail. So I'm going to have to put a little bit more energy into that. And I think the comments that I saw, or the comment at least that I saw, was, hey, can you help us make sure that we set the right tone for the policies for the school? So I will try to do better on that moving forward too. So, and we can all do that, I think. So we don't just glaze over it when we see a 5 or 6 page policy and just approve it, right? Let's make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do there. So, okay, questions, comments, concerns? That's it for me for this month. So, thank you. So we'll switch to the board subcommittees. And one other thing we didn't mention, we can cover it in the plus and minuses. We have changed the format in our attempt to be more sustainable, not 200-page documents. I really liked it. It worked out really well for me. But that's, I can click the link and I can bring up the files. You saw a couple examples where we kept the text in, and then we have examples where we click the links over. I have my own preference. We can talk it at the plus minus at the end, if that's okay, and what we liked and what we didn't like about this. But I appreciate you guys being willing to accept or try some different changes, and then we can be open and honest with our feedback with each other on what worked and didn't. So, okay. So, just reminded me because I pasted some words in on one of these. So, annual fund, anything?
Yeah, so I'm kind of waiting for Leela to get back, but we met at 42,000, and I think we had another donation of 600 tonight. So as far as getting with her, hopefully when she gets back after break, we'll discuss, that, and then talk about if it's viable really to have a fair and with taxing everyone. I don't know. So we'll decide that.
But $43,296
Yeah.
plus the 600 Cody handed me tonight, we came fairly close to meeting our $50,000 goal. We had some super generous families.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Great. Thanks.
We were very
very lucky, yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
And some of our donations are made on a monthly contribution, so that number is gonna keep going up.
One
Right.
question, oh, sorry, go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
One question I did have, do we have the ability, like, how can we take money in? I know we have a website, but can we take in stocks?
We can.
Yeah.
I asked about that.
Yeah.
We have an account where people can donate stocks to us,
Okay.
and we maybe should make that better known.
Well,
Because-
especially end of the year, because this is
The
the
end of
time
the
people
year,
do it.
there's actually some strong tax advantages for
Yeah.
folks if you wanna, if you've made some earnings on your stock and you don't wanna get taxed on that, you can pass it off to the school gets the full benefit of it and you get a tax deduction, right? So it's actually kind of a nice deal that somehow still government allows. So cause I hadn't seen that ever advertised and I was just thinking, can we do that?
We can. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I also want to remind people that even if you don't itemize your deduction, you can still write up to $300 off in cash donations per person, per adult. So if you're planning year-end donations, now's the time to do it.
Communications, any questions for Maggie?
We didn't meet.
Didn't meet, okay. Director search, I think we have a specific item. Lisa, can we take that one later? Thank you. Elections, no meeting, it says?
No meeting.
Okay. School expansion, I did put notes in, I just pasted them in. I'll just say I don't really like that they're pasted in. I think I like the links better because it's cleaner, but
Or
you
you
guys,
could blow them up easier.
same,
Yeah.
any?
You could blow them up easier too, though.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I like having them pasted in it too. Or the
The links.
The links,
I
yeah.
thought it was clean, yeah, so, I tried them both this time, but okay. Personnel, so I guess questions other than, what I didn't mention and I should have is we'll finalize this, the survey the 17th. And then I think Maggie, you and we agreed to look through it last month, is that right? So we'll do that and then we'll bring it to the personnel committee. So I don't have that in the notes here, but, so we'll bring that back before we share it with the broader audience, the findings.
Quick
Policy,
question.
yeah,
And
go ahead.
that's specific to the director?
That was
I'm sorry.
so the personnel committee is the one that kind of was leading that.
Right.
And we haven't really done much except for that survey, I would say. Yeah.
So one quick question to you is, since I'm not a parent or staff, but I'm on the board, were we surveying board members or specifically not? Because the only ones that wouldn't be then would be Cody and me because we happen to be community members and not staff or parents. But by definition, everyone else on the board would actually be part of that?
That's a good question.
It was just an odd anomaly.
Yeah,
to
right.
us
So
all.
I got an email as a parent, I assumed.
Yeah.
But
I don't feel real strongly either way, I was just,
no,
this happened one time in a past survey, it's just, we kind of,
Good
we were kind of
question.
left out.
if it's okay, I'll just send you to the link so that you
Does
can
that
add
work?
into the, I would say the community one, right? Is that fair?
Is that
More than
okay,
the staff.
Cody? I don't
Yeah.
know, if- yeah.
Yep. So let me do that.
I did ask, and I can't remember who.
Yeah, I
asked.
can't remember, yeah,
Because community members on the board.
yeah.
Sorry if I said otherwise,
No,
but
I
I
don't
think it
remember
makes
who I
sense.
asked, I don't think it was
Okay,
you.
okay. Policy, any questions for Michelle? Okay,
Beyond just, we're gonna have a couple of doozies coming in that are gonna need a lot of detail, like,
Okay.
for the
which
next
I'm
4
gonna do a really
meetings.
good job at this next time.
There's some detailed ones, and the Title IX that's a multi-meeting,
Okay,
so we've got some, beacons.
good. So if we go to our actual committees, academics, questions?
For academics, I was looking at your calendar, and I'm wondering where the January 3rd, the AP class schedule available to students.
I'm sorry, I'm misunderstanding you.
On your January calendar for your academics, because that's what we're on right now, right?
Yeah, that one, from, generally speaking, in the like previously, based on the enrollment schedule, that's when the AP schedule ideas would be available. But because there's, discussion and meeting around, possibly changing the schedule, like the class periods, meet times, and redeveloping a new schedule, we don't have yet what classes, like what they are. But it is something that's really important to communicate, and I do think that all of the AP teachers and Dr. Hinton need to sit down and meet because, again, we've never marketed our classes specifically, and there's just, as a school, we have to start focusing on marketing in all aspects, and that's definitely one of them. So we do need to have an AP teachers meeting for sure, for scheduling and for those matters.
But students are also expecting.
I know that they are, which is again why I think it would be really important for us to meet to understand and decide when can we or should we be publishing that these are classes that we have offered, just to get a description of the class and get some of that information out that we have offered. And I don't know if any departments are intending on new offerings. So that would also be very good if there are people who would like to be able to offer a new AP. They also are gonna start opening up their summer, the 2-week institutes and the other teacher training for AP, which you should do in June. So you can then take the other 3 months to write the curriculum. And it takes longer than that, but at least you have a head start on some of it.
Those open up February, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and last year they opened up in January. They opened them up early last year because they were doing mostly online ones, so I think it was easier for them to get the scheduling set. But yeah, so those kinds of things are definitely good. And for us to communicate with our students as well, just as an AP team, because also if they're looking at other options as well, so they'll know and understand, that yet we're working on it. These are a description of some of our APs that we have offered, so they can kind of think about it a little. Beyond what's in I know that it's in the course book, but again, just to kind of make it a little bit more of a point, and perhaps flesh out those descriptions just a smidge.
Why is it delayed again?
Because the subcommittee for, if you look, there's a subcommittee for academics that is kind of looking at online learning and summer programming, and they're also looking at calendar and scheduling. It all kind of got looped into one group. And so that group has been looking at potential options for shifting schedule because the way the schedule is currently, there are some question marks with regard to the financial feasibility of it. And so are there ways that the schedule can be adjusted to allow for the courses students are looking for, but in such a way that allows it to be more fiscally, I don't know if fiscally conservative is the right word, but just so, Dr. Hinton is working with that team. But yeah, and so there have been a few there was an initial sort of like slight interest poll just based on some early mock-ups, but we haven't had a chance to kind of see final mock-ups for each of the ideas, and so there's some more work for the team to do, but they're fleshing them out.
Does that mean that there will be more AP classes or less AP classes, or?
As of right now, that I do not know. Because it would depend on how the sort of philosophical principle behind it. So far when we've had AP classes, we didn't cut them if they were, at like 10 students or 8 students, or, we didn't cut them for lower numbers because the students that were taking them were high school students that wanted to stay here. So we allowed them to be a lower enrollment, which is like a net negative financially, because you have a teacher who's being paid to teach X number of students when actually only this number is actually paying for them. So they ended up being a net financial negative. But conversely, a lot of the times they're only offered once a day. So until they saw the total schedule, they wouldn't know whether or not some contradicted with each other. So I think the goal is to see, if I understand it correctly, is to be able to see a little bit more about like what students are interested in taking first, and then to build a schedule that'll allow them to take more of that. And it's similar, like we did that before with the student interest survey initially, about like who would want to, and then they kind of tried to build the schedule with the least amount of contradictions, but they still sometimes would happen. And so if something's only offered, even if somebody's doing PSEO part-time, so say they're half-time PSEO, half-time here, well, depending on when those PSEO classes, and they might not even know right away, because sometimes, if you're a PSEO student, you get last registration. Like you don't get the primo spots. For sure not. They may not even know until later into July and August what some of those would even be. Some schools start early, like Century starts particularly early, but I know like the U was late, when like their registration when they got was a bit later. So sometimes, students, you would have students, perhaps even 20, 25 students intending to enroll in a class, and then when all of the numbers shook out and the section class period time became available, then suddenly you're down to like 10. But you're not going to cancel the whole class, because then all of a sudden now you have a chunk of either full-time or part-time juniors and seniors, like where are they gonna go? We still need to offer things for them. So it's kind of a balance in terms of wanting to be fiscally sound, but one of the reasons why we let those classes be lower numbers in the first place was because part of the reasons why people were leaving was because the classes were always being canceled. So they thought that they would be able to register for these 3 classes, but 2 of them got canceled because of low numbers. So we said, no, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna say that because there's, under 10 students or under 15 students that we're gonna cancel the class, because then it throws all their other enrollment really into a lot of flux. So that was the original reason, and it did keep, so that we do actually have more juniors and seniors here on campus, part-time or full-time, than we did previously. So that did succeed. But again, when they're offered and those other things are still a conundrum, there's still an issue to be resolved.
And was the student interest form sent out this year?
We don't have that yet. I think that's what the
You mean
team.
for this current school year?
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Oh,
Yeah,
Did they do one last year?
Yeah, they had
Was
the
it an
initial.
interest?
Yeah, they had the initial interest form because then we received who wanted to take the class.
But
And
not
then
just
But
not just a blank, hey, what classes would you like to take? Not that
Yeah.
kind of an interest.
Yeah.
Like, here's what we're offering, what might you want
And
to
is it
take?
different than the application to take an AP class versus the interest of taking it?
In the past, they were just sort of one and the same, and it's an application, not in the sense that formal application, but rather just these are the classes I would like to take, and the teachers would get the list of students who are interested in it, so you can check and see, do they have the did they take the prerequisite classes and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that.
So they're kind of the same thing, is what you're saying.
Like a little bit, but, so, and we have to, the AP teacher meeting also, you just need to tweak some of make sure our prereqs are aligned with AP prereqs, and just to make sure that those are all aligned with what AP says, just to double check them all.
So when will the
Yeah.
AP classes be selected, or?
That I do not know. Dr. Hinton, do you have any kind of timeline?
Do you want me to come up and
Oh, sure.
talk a little bit about it?
Does that work?
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
want to
I
extend
don't
this
wanna-
conversation if we're not heading in that
You
direction.
can,
I'm trying to help you out there.
yeah, thanks.
So, the question is, what's the timeline?
Just timeline, yeah.
Okay, so typically what we will do is, first of all, we have to figure out how many courses a day what our schedule is gonna be, because we have to know how many slots we're filling, whether it's gonna be 7 periods or 8 periods, not to get too far into the weeds with that. And then kind of what is our goal, what are our thoughts around that, and I think that there will be a presentation to the board at some point when we get to that point as well. But then, students will register for classes in March. Then we'll build the schedule based on that.
And my biggest concern is this, and I don't remember all the timelines in terms of PSEO students, but all I remember is in the spring of sophomore and senior year, the consideration for my daughter is, as part of even her college application, is do I do AP or PSEO?
Right.
And then you talk about digging in the weeds, and you go, what's offered at which school? And, she had 2 or 3 choices for PSEO schools versus AP, and there were like 4 or 5 different scenarios, and if we can get the date out as soon as possible, or the offering, that's always better, right?
Right.
Rather than she was hanging on a bunch of different, contingencies, trying to make a decision just to figure out,
Are you
that
trying to
simple
figure out,
question
like,
of
which
AP
AP
versus
courses?
PSEO versus what schools am I actually going to apply to and what do they take? So that's how deep their conversation
In
is.
terms of what AP courses they accept as
What,
transfer?
yes, and
Okay,
how many
so I'm trying to
credits
sure.
and all that, so you can see
Okay.
that it's a hugely,
Right.
domino effect decision, so.
And our goal is to have more offerings,
Yep.
not less. So
Yep.
that is our goal, is to try
Yep.
and figure out how to do that, and that's part of what the work is around.
Yep.
Is not around seeing how many, and,
Right.
and there will be decisions that'll have to be made about what's cost effective and what's not.
Right.
Um,
And timing actually is critical, because in order to do part-time PSEO, you need all your classes done in the morning or afternoon,
Right,
and of course, then
Yeah.
literally rush back to campus for the rest of it. So I know it's a lot of moving parts, but
Right.
earlier the better.
yeah, and I have a lot of experience around building a schedule that's,
I'm
conducive to
concerned from the
PSEO as well.
academics committee where it says that the January AP class schedules are available to students. And then the middle of the month office needs a list of classes offered by each department in the middle of the month for January. And then in February it says students sign up for their classes. So I'm worried about it being moved to March without communication to the students and communication to teachers, AP teachers, really other
Yeah.
teachers, and living up with this and kind of making another change where I feel like we haven't, kind of that same thing where we haven't had a good discussion about it, and it's a
So-
change where the old people, experienced wise people haven't had a say.
Just for the record, I didn't call you old. Whoever's taking the notes, I didn't call you old. No, the course offerings, so we do have to decide what we're gonna do. We do have to have some public conversation. We have to decide on a framework. The hope is that we would get a framework nailed down soon. As soon as we have that, we can start to, the thought we had was to be meeting in mid-January with all the departments, starting to look at how the framework would work with the courses that we're offering, you know, what courses fit, how things go. Because we're really gonna try to have a big picture of what we're offering and have a big picture presentation. The actual master schedule will not be done until April. We will have a list of what courses we intend to offer. We will give students the opportunity to select their courses. What time of the day, all of that will not be settled until we'll have a draft schedule in April. The final schedule should be out before you leave. But students will have a chance to know what they've signed up for and what we're intending to run in plenty of time before they make their PSEO
Students, though, in
decision.
the past knew by January, February, so that's not.
Right, but that's not typically best practice in that, because we can't, because then we have to build the schedule. You know, we have to build the schedule before we know.
For
So anyway.
tonight's discussion, I'm just wondering, what do we need to answer tonight, and maybe what do we need to bring back? Because we have our next January board meeting. Would it make sense to talk about the AP schedule then, or?
It'll still be past the deadline that's been done in previous years. But I think where the communication needs to go out to everybody, where nobody knows what the plan is from March. And I don't know, like Sydney, I'm sure has plenty of AP friends who want to know what's happening.
And so we can easily make that communication to students that we are, how the process is changing.
So that sounds like that's the key takeaway, is
That's
just,
the
can we
takeaway,
get a
yeah.
little bit of help sending out some more communication on the AP timing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's absolutely.
Does that work for
And
you,
signing
Sid?
up for classes.
So, okay.
Good,
Does
yeah,
that
thank
take
you,
care?
thank you, yep. Any other questions on academics? Okay. Finance, will be shifting to January. Is that for everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
Including the financials?
we did get financial statements, I see they were put on there. We have not had a chance to sit down with the committee and review them and discuss them and do anything, so everything's gonna get shifted to
Okay.
January.
Okay.
So the summary came from that report, you just cut and pasted it, is that?
What's on here is from, the staff at Bergen,
Okay.
which is our accounting,
And we're
consultant.
okay to wait until
Yeah,
January?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cecilia,
and
did you?
if I could speak, because we made our November meeting late, and then we made our December meeting early, they
Yeah.
couldn't turn it around in time for our finance committee meeting, but they did turn the reports that they normally give us around, at least I just popped them in the
Sure.
agenda here, but like Cody said, we haven't had a chance to discuss them.
Okay.
So we maybe have 2 months worth in January, depending on.
Depending on when we do the January one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. Then if we're all right, we'll move to consent agenda 12A, HVAC contract Harris, replacing train.
Did you want me to address that briefly, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's how we do
Why
it.
and how much?
I ran out of
$6,000.
time to add up the money, but we're saving about 3,000 to 5,000 a year by having Harris. Train is great, we had no problem with Train, this is purely money saving. And Harris has a very strong niche in the charter school world. They do the HVAC services for many charter schools. They're offering a lot more sort of responsiveness to us in terms of energy savings and quality of, I don't know, humidity and temperature and stuff. They're more responsive. Not that Train wasn't, but
A quick, do we need to do anything different because of COVID with our filtration that we're gonna?
We have an old system.
we need a
It
new
literally
building.
will fry.
I know we need a new building,
If we
this, you
wanted-
don't have to convince me,
Yeah,
but,
if we wanted to do
That escalated
it
quickly.
properly, we'd fry our system, but we have little portable ones, and you know what? This is the best HVAC right here. That's what we're doing. and it's
Can I ask
doing
a
it.
question?
Yeah.
Does this require board approval, or can you just do this?
I don't know, I was erring on the conservative side by bringing it to you. I think it's a contract, especially kind of expensive contracts, I do bring them, but I don't know the answer.
What is the annual amount? I see like $4,300, is that what this is?
there's a few different ones though, right?
Yeah,
So-
there's a few in here, I was trying to add them all together.
It's
As
for
a
each
contract, I think we
building.
should see it.
Yeah,
I do too.
I apologize, I got a call right before the meeting, so my last minute homework didn't get done. It's, you know, quite a few thousand a year, 10, 12,000 between the four buildings.
Are there any delegation of authority documents or limits?
So
for-
what, so yeah, to build on that, just, we're digressing a little bit, but 1 minute digression, and I think it's a good one, because we give you authority in that, insofar as the budget, right? And we say, here's your budget, and we give you, let's say, 10,000 to
Yeah.
manage filters. You're coming back with, let's say, 6,000. So normally you would say, go
Don't need to
ahead,
see it.
you know, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
But I also, on the other hand, like the transparency too, of saying, here's the new contract that we switched to. So I was debating, you know, now we have it on the consent agenda, which we shouldn't even be talking, it should just be just approved. But we also have questions, so that's probably a fault of mine, we should have probably put that down to the discussion decision bit, if we had these questions, but.
Well, or conversely, if the information was in there when we were reviewing, we can say, oh, I have a couple of questions, and then move it. Otherwise, just approve.
And there is a link, isn't there?
Got
Yes,
it.
there is. So there's a
So-
link to it.
So you're right, Eric, I think we need to get better at that in the future, but what, I guess, it's a separate topic maybe on how do we
It is a
manage.
separate topic, yes.
Let me
Yeah.
capture it
I
as
think
this.
these are easy enough to just, while we're in the interim mode, I mean, you know, that's kind of something, maybe just to see the contracts is to have. Not that Cecilia isn't doing a great job, but just for another layer of eyeballs, you know. And once we have a permanent, once proven, then you do it.
Yeah, I
And
think
it's
it's
just
a
a matter
good
of
practice.
slapping it on and
Yeah.
agreeing.
So any other questions? I mean, do we burn our bridges with train, or can we?
No,
go
not
back
at all.
Okay.
In fact, it's amazing. As soon as we got, this started December 1, and then like December 3rd, building B was freezing. And Train had to, or Harris had to come, and they've never been here before. I mean, I had to show them how to get to the roof and everything, and I said, our old guy, Andrew from Train, was a fabulous technician, and our new Harris guy said, oh, I know Andrew, and he called him right up. So they help each other out, so.
Good, good. Any other questions? So I guess, do we need to vote on this one then? So let's get a motion.
I motion to approve 12A, new HVAC contract with Harris.
Annie moves first, can I get a second?
This is Sandy, I'll second it.
Sandy seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Great. Thanks for looking after the finances, Ms. Dodge, so. Well done, finished business example, that was my placeholder. I don't know if you still have that in yours, but at least in mine I have example. I don't have anything else there, so. Can we move to section 14, discussion and decision? First one up is Ms. Anderson, discussion on the executive director hiring, please come forward.
I think the questions are in there this time, so you can look at them yourself. And I sent them to you as well in a separate email. And so my plan was just to actually talk to you about these and see what you were thinking. But the chair preferred that we would not spend too much time on that. So hopefully, if you had questions, you could ask those to me, or you could have asked me in an email, but nobody did email me. But if you're okay with just allowing the search committee to meet and to answer the questions for you, then that's what the plan will be, unless there are outstanding questions that you have right now. The one thing I have to have you do tonight, though, is to pick a date for your interviews. So that has to be done tonight. So I need that from you. But if you're all okay with the search committee just answering all those questions, then we can do that.
Yep.
So then, looking at the I'm okay with the search committee, but I'm okay with them, with like answering the rest of them, because y'all have been working on it, so you know what, you've got a sense of it. So when it comes to the 24th or the 28th, a Thursday or a Monday, I agree. I think that it's then, prior to spring break, and you can get these things set and ready to rock. Ms. Dodge, when it comes to the interviewing process or doing those things, do you find it more helpful to have the interviews end of the week or beginning of the week? I don't know, is there a strategy that works best, like end of the week, because then you can get an email out to them, but then it might be the week and they don't read it, or is Monday best, because then they'd be more likely to be reading emails or returning contacts? I don't know.
As a candidate, I don't think it mattered to me ever. You're applying for a job that is important to you, and you're gonna pay attention to your emails, so I don't think it really matters. It's maybe what's better for the board.
So any preference on the 24th or 28th?
I think Thursdays are better than Mondays.
Thursday?
Myself.
I'm open both days. You guys
Either
also
day.
open? So should we pick Thursday for?
Yep.
Okay.
But then if anything goes weird with the 24th, then you still have some wiggle room.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I
Good.
That plan B.
And you guys are doing a great job going through all the
Yeah,
questions.
they're
So on the
killing
other
it.
ones, we're happy to take your recommendations.
Sounds
Okay.
good. All right.
What time would we start that, or like 5 o'clock?
Well, my guess would be 5. The committee will have to decide, but to me, it seems like if we're doing 3, we would do 5, 6, and 7, that's question number 5. So, and then afterwards, you would have your deliberations, and then the chair could call the next day and offer something.
Very good. Any other questions for Ms. Anderson?
Sounds good,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
So, approval of strategic plan, I didn't have a name on this one, but if it's okay, I'll start with that one. So we have kind of done some wordsmithing, as well as we had a chance to spend some time during the workshop, for those of you who might have missed it. So we've had some very good discussions, so thanks for the open, honest feedback on that. I guess I'd like to make a motion that we approve it for further consideration by the administration. So I would say we approve the strategic plan as is, would be my motion. Do you have a,
Can I offer a clarification?
Sure.
It would be approving the new language suggested for the mission, vision, and the
And the
first
top line,
line,
yeah.
the top line of that table.
that's a good clarification. Can I get a second on that, and then we can discuss further?
I will second
And Annie will second, so thank you. So, discussion, we spent an hour, doesn't mean that we've finalized it, but are we okay with that clarification? Sorry, I should probably back up, just for those who may be dialed in. Let's see.
Sydney, do you want to read the new mission and vision, maybe? Do you have that?
And I can do it, do you have it? Okay,
It's just at the top of
but the top of the top one, yep.
Nice and loud.
Vision is to be an innovative, sustainable model of academic excellence for all students that creates well-rounded lifelong learners and global citizens. And the mission is we provide accelerated and inclusive curricula and instruction in all subjects with an emphasis on math and science.
Thank you. And just for those who just tuned in to the board meeting, so we have 3 pillars. Success for all students is number 1. Organizational support to support our MSA mission and vision, and then facilities and infrastructure to support our mission and vision. So basically it's, success for students, and then how do we support our mission and vision. So the mission and vision is meant to be more inclusive. We have just a small tweak, but it's a powerful one. And it is adding that for all students. So that's been changed. And then in the mission, we added and inclusive. So these are two kind of changes that we're trying to signal to the community abroad that we are an inclusive community here within MSA. So, and then the nice thing that I will just add my editorial comments is that we are not doing an overhaul of the mission and vision. We did challenge it, and we feel that it's strong, and a lot of people are here for this reason, and it continues on in the future. So we don't see a major overhaul. We just had a minor tweak. It's an important one, but it is just a tweak to our mission and vision. So that's why the pillars are kind of set up to support the mission and vision, if you will. So we've got, I didn't count, 20 odd, maybe I'm just looking, bullet points underneath there. And for those listening, the administration will come back with a plan on how to deliver against those ones. And we may have some more discussions about prioritization. So that kind of summarizes what we talked about at the workshop. The other good point was that if there's any externalities, additional data that can come in and that can continue to challenge it, it's not kind of written in stone, if you will. It's something that we will continue to reevaluate. I think our authorizer would expect us to continue to reevaluate it if something comes in. So we will have met the requirement that our authorizer has of every 3 years having a review of our strategic plans. But we're also open to changes or additions as needed moving forward. So it doesn't mean that this is set and done. So any other comments, discussions? Good. Well, then let's, so did you capture the motion as?
Motion to approve the strategic plan top line as it appears. Does that feel
And
like?
mission
And the mission and vision.
Ah,
Mission, vision, and that top line, yeah. Okay.
It's probably the most important wording we have.
okay, as well as mission and vision update.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstain? Anyone? Okay, it passes 7 to 1, and 0 abstentions. Okay. We are on to world's best workforce. Ms. Dodge?
So you have a link to the template. It's exactly the same as you saw before a month ago. Nothing's changed except I cleaned up the top. This is just the data that we'll enter into the MDE system, but it's just now copy paste into the MDE system. So I think we went over this pretty well last time, but I'll just reiterate that we had great student and parent participation in the advisory group. We're actually a little thin on the staff participation, but the input from students and parents was really, really helpful. The biggest concern is achievement gap, and everyone, including me, agree that we need to dig deeper into the data to more clearly understand our achievement gap and use more than just the state MCA test scores. So we will do that moving forward for our strategic plan. As a reminder, world's best workforce goals, this is the state's strategic planning process. Essentially, it's the bare minimum. So we'll fold all of this into ours. The other area that we need to watch is increasing the diversity of our staff and making sure that our at-risk kids get time with highly qualified staff. So those are both things in here that we just need to keep an eye on. Then everything else in here is fabulous. Our graduation rate, our test scores, all that, fabulous. So that's really about it.
And then may I ask with regard to the world's best workforce? I know staff participation focused on being on the committee, but for parents and teachers, they had some workshops where they could attend and give feedback. What numbers did you have for staff doing those?
So in the advisory group, we had 2 advisory group meetings. That's what you're asking about?
Well, I'm asking so for the advisory group, you have more total students and parents than teachers on the advisory group. But are you going to have any of the other similar sort of town halls or opportunities for teachers to give input, even if they can't make it to the regular meetings of the committee?
So it's too late for World's Best Workforce.
Oh, gotcha,
Because
okay.
it's due on Wednesday,
Yep.
but it's not too late for strategic planning, where I really
Gotcha.
think that that's more robust. This is going through the motions, meeting a state requirement, it's important, but I think where it's more exciting to staff to be working on the larger strategic planning, I
Gotcha,
think, so.
gotcha.
Absolutely. Yep. Any other questions about that? Or this report at all? And if I would have known, I would have had slim attendance from the staff who have typically been on this. I would have cast a broader net to get more people, but again, I think this is where the student and the parent input and advisory is really important, and I was very, very pleased to have the participation we had.
And you would like an approval tonight to submit it?
Yes,
Is that right?
because it's due on Wednesday.
Okay. So I can make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
Cody seconds. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes. 8-0.
Thank you.
Good, thank you for summarizing that. Next one up, we have policies, so Ms. Kukowski.
Okay, so for the two policies that you have here, if you look, policy 516, that one is for medication, and it hasn't had a red line update in a long time. The most recent one had to do with, because sunscreen was technically, so they added sunscreen, and they added that and students can self-carry ibuprofen, because again, it was, there's just times where students would need to have that. The other thing they had that they updated last year, I don't keep the red line versions from previous red lines in our packet, but one of the other updates they did was specifically with regard to disposal of medications, and that happens in the summer. So just to make sure that we are still on track with how we dispose of medications if they are not picked up by families, that becomes really key. But there wasn't any new updates to it. But just again, to understand our medication policy. And again, remember when we're reviewing them, even if there's not a red line change, that doesn't mean we can't change something.
Right.
It definitely does not.
And did we, because I know we've been talking about changing everything to executive director, is that something we want to do in the policies? Because I saw it just said director in
That
ours,
was-
and I didn't know if that was something we wanted to do.
I'm fine with whatever. And I previously had actually gone through and standardized and redone all of the policies that way, but the flash drive got lost.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do? But I mean, if that's what we're.
but we definitely can just moving
Yeah.
forward every time we have one up.
Yep.
But I gave it to a previous director and it's gone.
Okay.
Sorry, but I definitely can, and I think it's good to do executive director. And as long as we still are going to maintain the other two director titles. So like sometimes it'll have athletic director as a specified thing. So as long as those titles, again, same thing, just to make sure that we have those. And it's good to review those in the sense that is it still going to be executive director? So that for the admin team, again, understanding some of those delineated responsibilities for sure.
Is it, the red lines, just a general question, so I'm just thinking, like student medication, if something bigger picture was changing, not MSA, but the way students are being medicated or what have you, if that changed, then a red line would come through from the state kind of as a recommendation?
Yep.
And then we would be able to discuss it?
Minnesota School Board Association, yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I'm trying to think, I'd like to apply some more thought to this, but at the same time, I'm hoping that some of the bigger pictures would be captured. Then we could do more of the school-specific. Is that a right
That is
way to
exactly
approach
what
it?
happens,
Yep,
yes,
okay.
because then when we have the red lines from the state, they'll have statutory references. And so then if you're doing so, if there's other changes they have, then a chunk of the time you'll also see an updated statute at the end. So then there's other things that are associated with it. And then sometimes they're based on legal cases, and the MSBA, fabulously for us, makes their webinars available. So even if you can't attend, you can still watch the video of the webinars. Where some of those other policies they've shifted it, but it's more just best practice because there's other caseload that's making its way through, and they anticipate, certain changes happening, so they have some sort of like best practices that even if it's not a red line, it's just something to be kind of aware of, and that we can make changes based on our school needs. So
Okay.
like our dress code policy veers slightly from MSBA to be a more inclusive policy and a more gender neutral policy. So we made that change as a school because it more reflects our school values.
Administrative, did we turn the volume back?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. When you mentioned webinar, I thought,
Oh, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
we
Oh,
should
I didn't
also
even
make
ask.
sure
I'm
that
so
people
sorry.
can watch ours. Yeah, okay, good. Thanks for doing that. So, any, I guess anything else then, or are we okay to approve?
Are we approving them to this month, or is this the first review and then we approve them in a consent agenda next month?
Medication policy didn't have any updates, so it doesn't actually need approval. It's just that we look at
We
certain
reviewed it.
policies just as part of our annual review
Okay.
of them. I actually would like to divide all of the policies up. Not all of them are mandated as an annual review, but I think it would be a best practice for us to take all of the policies, even if it's consent, because then all the board members read each policy. Like at some point in the year, they read each policy. Because that's our governance, we are responsible for all of those things. And yeah, I know I'm the policy person, but like still,
So I'm with you.
it's still a good thing to do so that we understand. So I myself most of them would still be consent agenda just because there's very seldom like red lines that come through. But I think that it would be best practice for our board as a whole, like, and I know that means I'm giving more work to people next year when I'm not on the board, but.
That's the spirit.
No, but it's a good practice.
I'll probably still be on policy committee though, because I've just always been on policy committee.
I remember when I joined, some of our policies were a bit dated sounding. So it was nice that we were able to see it and put some fresh eyes on it and say this needs to be
Yeah,
cleaned up.
there was like one that mentioned MySpace.
Yep, MySpace, or even some of the way we refer to different groups of people was a
Yeah.
little bit dated. So those sorts of things we can catch and clean up. And now, do we need to change? I have a board cadence, so we just need to
Yeah, so
update
you
that maybe.
have
So
annual review of this one, which we did,
Yep,
and then approval of the family engagement policy, but I don't think we can approve that tonight.
okay.
I could be wrong, double check me, but the questions about like who is doing which thing still aren't in here, so I don't, like the questions from last time that I had about like who is doing which thing.
Sorry, Cecilia, was your question on the last one or on
No,
this?
this one.
This one, okay, so any other questions on the student medication one? Otherwise, we don't need to approve it if we didn't change anything, but, so we're saying no
Except for
changes,
executive.
okay. So then we go to the next one, so you had a question?
Sure, I wanted to just get clarification from Michelle. You have questions about this? Where are the questions?
The ones and again, maybe I may just be entirely misreading. So the MSA board, when we had our last review, there were aspects of coordination and integration, and I'll direct the administration to develop with and agree upon things, but we had talked about actually having like who is the lead for, because this is a big bulky policy. So who is the lead? A lot of them will say the executive director or athletic director if there's an individual who's point, because it's kind of a big policy.
Good question. Yeah.
And that was what I had, so I mean, the policy itself reads exactly how it's supposed to read, perfectly fine, for their template. But that was the other question, was just that we are required to carry it out and to review it and assess it, and so I didn't know whose role that would be.
Right. So my intent is to assign Dr. Olson to be our Title I director. Once you have a Title I grant, and MSA this is the last step for us to receive our Title I grant, is to put this policy in place, which is kind of a funny policy because it is a policy about development of parent and family engagement policies. So what we have right now is kind of like us acknowledging we're gonna do these things. Now we have to get going on doing these things. So a year from now, this will look different because we will say here's how we're doing it. Like I had to kind of put everything but the kitchen sink in here for now until we figure out what we're gonna do. So we have to get going on this, and then there's quite a bit that it does compel us to do.
Yes,
And
significantly.
sometimes we may think it's not worth it, the money's not worth it, but we will grow this grant as we identify as more of our student body comes from poor households, and as we identify more of our student body as coming from poor households, this will generate more money, and it's important for our school. So, but that would be my intent, is to assign Dr. Olson as the Title I director and take the lead on these things.
Okay.
And she has experience with that.
Oh, totally fine. So then for this one, would we be able to have a motion to approve contingent upon like including a couple of the Title I coordinator, like a couple of those name changes, or do you purposely want to keep it vague for right now? Because we are gonna have to publish who that is.
Yes, I would ask for your approval tonight, because last month we had our first reading of this, and then a year from now or sooner, we can update it with more specifics, but
Okay.
we need this to kind of trigger the money, so. As long as you're comfortable with everything in here, it's all good stuff, it's just quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Other questions? Title I? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve it? Cody, anyone second?
I'll second.
Eric seconds.
This is the first time we've received funds for this. This is very exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Any other,
opens up a lot of doors
Yes,
for
it
us.
is, yeah.
other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 8-0. Thank you, Ms. Touch. Up next, you again with enrollment procedures update. Admission procedures.
So you have a link to these, I guess we have called them both in admission procedures and enrollment procedures. It really should say procedures and not policies and procedures at the top.
Yeah.
But, so that is a change we should make, but other than that, nothing's changed from last year on this. We're gearing up to start taking applications, when is it at the next?
I think it's within, is it within a week?
Or is it December 15th?
I was gonna say
Starting on
it's-
Wednesday, yeah,
yeah.
it's December 15th, starting on Wednesday, we'll start taking applications. So this just, we're required to have admission procedures, and especially
Yeah.
because we have a waiting list. So I don't think there's anything controversial in here, and nothing's changed from last year.
I had a note, maybe I missed, but I had director, not executive director. So somewhere in here I just didn't
It
highlight.
must say director, we can,
Well, I'm looking for where it is. That's one of the things that doesn't work for me is I used to be able to take notes because I had one big PDF and I could write. And now it's a document, so that's what. But I made a note in my agenda, but I can't find it here now. So. Board of Directors. So maybe just do a once over and see if there is. I don't see it right now, so maybe it was for them.
Race and ethnicity reporting. There's a director or designee will utilize the best information.
And which number is that?
It's at the bottom of
general.
the last one on page 3.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yes,
There's no
5,
page
general
number on this,
admission
actually.
funds.
I mean, it says it up here in the doc, but it's not listed on the actual document itself.
Director designee will utilize. Yeah. Okay.
so if I were to make 3 changes, remove the word policies from the title. At the bottom, page 3, in that number 5, race ethnicity, change director to executive director, and then add page numbers.
Sounds good.
Well, we might need to keep policy though, because there are policies that govern this.
But this is a procedure.
Gotcha. That was just my only point, is that this is the procedure, but it is based on policies, so, or at least have the policy
Do we
reference
refer
as
to the policies in here?
No, I don't think.
I wasn't seeing it, no.
So it's a procedure, yeah.
So
I see
on
some
there-
statutes, but I don't see our own.
Or just perhaps to have the policy reference, like as a footnote or an end note.
And I'd say between the 4 and 5, just get rid of the extra spaces.
The extra space is bugging me.
Yeah.
You know, we also do say lottery
They could put
policy,
something else in there.
so admissions and lottery policy, that's more the procedure, right? It's
Procedure,
still not a policy.
We don't have a lottery policy, it's a
No.
procedure. I see there are some changes. But they're minor
These are minor
changes.
ones,
They're
yeah.
not
These aren't-
substantive changes.
It's not changing like what it is,
No.
or what it
Right.
do.
And did we already ask for volunteers to watch this one or not yet? Cody, you have asked, or you will be there?
I thought when is it? Do we know?
The lottery's
January?
in February, right? I think February, yep, I don't know off the
Okay.
top of my head. But I
Well-
remember seeing an email about this.
Yeah, me too.
That was before I took my new teaching position, so we better touch base to make sure that won't conflict with you. But,
We can figure it out.
Yeah.
I like being there because I recognized it changed my life, so, to witness, it's a big moment for a lot of students,
Yeah. Sure.
whether, if they get in or not.
Any further questions, comments on this one?
Do you want me to list the changes again?
Well, I guess, yeah, and then I can make a motion with your changes.
Good, so remove the word policy from the title and anywhere else that it occurs, except make a footnote that actually refers to the policies that are involved in this. Change any occurrence of director to executive director for sure at the bottom of page 3. And remove the extra spaces between item 4 and item 5 and add page numbers.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion that we approve it with those changes.
I'll second it.
Cody seconds. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, abstained? Okay, passes. 8-0, great. Next up, we have a line of credit reapproval.
Yes. So in the past, we've had a line of credit with our bank. I don't know if we've ever actually had to tap into it too much, but it's always a good option to have if we run short on cash. So we do need to vote to renew it, and then we have to identify who's gonna be the authority. And it could be the board chair, it could be the treasurer, or it could be the executive director. My recommendation is myself, just because I plan on being here. I'm gonna I plan on rerunning and continuing to be the treasurer, so it's one less transition when we transition to from an interim executive director to a permanent executive director. Anyone, do you have a thought there? I'm not trying to take the responsibility from you.
I don't,
And what is the responsibility?
yeah, that's a good question.
Just when we go to take, if we start to tap into the money, it has to come from, me or Cecilia or Dan is approving that we're tapping into it. So,
That's the role of the authority, is to approve disbursement of funds out
Yeah.
of this.
and considering Cecilia and I are both on the finance committee, we discussed that at the finance committee anyways. So it can be either one of us or Dan.
You know, it's a tough call, but I would think if we need to tap into our line of credit, it would be a big deal, and so it probably is board worthy.
So
We have a signature card at the bank, and it has to have Cody, it has to have the board treasurer, the executive director, and the business assistant, that's who's on it. So as those people change roles, we have to go in and sign a new card all the time.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
that's what my thought was having me, is because there's a plan for a potential turnover in your position, so. But I'm fine either way.
I guess, yeah, I don't really know, it's quite annoying, I mean, if you every year have to change it with the board chair too. It's a bit annoying. I like the fact that I have no idea what's going on in the finances, so then if it came to me, then I would have to actually look at it and see why are we spending money, right? As opposed to if you're real close to it. And so I like the extra set of eyes, where you're saying
That's
it comes
true.
from the finance team, but then, like someone here would have to take some time and look into it and see why are we doing this, so it's not so quick. That's my only reason why I would say maybe it makes sense that the board chair do it, because they're not anyway sitting on these committees, but
I wish we would have thought to ask Bergen what is the
the norm.
norm.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, because for what we got from Bergen is, they're asking who should we list, so
Yeah.
that tells me that,
It maybe
Have you
changes.
been on it now?
I believe John was before, because it's saying with the departure of, part of this is being, with the departure of John Grecky.
Actually, this goes a little bit back to the delegation of authority question, because this has something to do with that as well. I mean, is this line of credit something that you get like a credit card and you can take out and buy a Snickers bar? Or are you buying a building? Like, what is this line of credit? How much is it, and what are like minimum thresholds, transaction amounts?
I believe one of them was sometimes the state, if we run into like deficits with charter, you don't get all of your money right away, and then you run
Yeah.
short with
So you're
payroll.
using it to float
So this to
something.
float something until,
It's-
you end up getting paid event, so that's one of the, we have used that in the past.
Okay.
It's basically the biggest thing is, the state doesn't pay us right away.
Yeah.
They pay us, they have what's called holdbacks.
Yeah, hold
So there have been times, which I don't foresee that being a huge problem, where we have to pay our bills, but we haven't gotten the money even though we've earned it. So that's what the line of credit's typically used for. And we also don't have to approve the line of credit.
Or we could put it over till next month and find out more about it.
Yeah.
I do know that we're not at any risk, like, a long time ago, when charter, like, when MSA was new and other charter schools were new, and I worked at MDE, I would get calls from charter schools saying, will you make St. Paul pay these bills because we can't make payroll, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, that doesn't happen anymore to at least successful charter schools like ours, and we've got a giant fund balance, so there's no danger.
How long ago, Annie, was this one? And
I'm gonna say 3-4 years ago.
the only reason I ask is because
Yeah.
I don't want to step in between how the administration is kind of managing the day-to-day spending. I would rather that you come back and say we had to tap into it because of, we weren't paid and that's how we managed it, as opposed to getting a phone call and saying none of the teachers got paid this week until you say, okay, and I gotta go to a bank or something, so,
I think it was in the 5 years I've been back, so.
okay.
we have to do-
The
wasn't it?
dollar amount for the line of credit, I don't think is very significant as far as, like, it's not a huge amount of money where the entire board needs to vote.
Then maybe it
To-
makes sense to stay with the executive director.
That's where from what I'm hearing, that's what I'm leaning towards. But it's also fair.
I do feel
to bring
like
it back.
it would be a conversation had at a finance meeting, which would then be reported to the board, so.
That's what I think we
You
should
could wait.
Yeah, we should,
Put it
we
on.
didn't have a finance meeting, so we should maybe table this for the finance meeting and talk with them, and then we can come back with
Okay.
it.
great.
Okay,
We'll just put that as,
sounds good.
either a consent agenda or a old business.
I think part of it too is, and I could probably look, do we have like a finance operating policy, or do we have a separation of duties statement that talks about who deposits the checks versus who writes the checks versus who can allocate or approve fund disbursement versus, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different pieces in there. I'm not saying I don't trust it, just understanding those checks and balances, I
Yep,
think would be beneficial.
Yep.
We have this to some degree, Eric, but it deserves a review, and I haven't given it a review yet, so.
Alright, well, there's no sense of urgency on this one then, so I think it's okay to wait.
So Cody, if you bring this to the finance committee, I would suggest, I just wanted to make sure that if it does get drawn on, that the board would be notified at the
Yes.
next meeting. I
Yes.
think that's the bigger issue, and
Well, we don't need this because we need to draw money from it.
Right.
Not, we don't have an urgent need to, it's a backup, a
No, I
contingency
understand
plan.
that, so
Oh,
I
you
just
mean
wanna
when-
make sure there's a process or a procedure to let us know
In the
in the
event
financial
of.
report that's been drawn upon.
Yes,
Then maybe, I don't know.
we would discuss that at the finance
Yeah,
meeting,
that's what
which
I
would
mean.
then be in the minutes.
Yeah,
And,
it's one procedure, or something that we all understand that we would like to know. It rises to that level, but.
Michelle has,
I have 10 minutes of battery left.
Oh.
So who should I share with?
maybe we
I
take a
have 10
10-minute
minutes of
break.
battery
Okay.
left. My battery's,
Oh.
like I don't have my charger. So who should I share with?
Cody wants this meeting to
Oh, thank you. This is the best. I know we're almost
We
done,
are
we're just not
almost
10 minutes almost done.
But, okay, so this one was
I don't
tabled
like
till
typing on my
next.
Yeah,
phone
we'll
that
table
long.
this.
We're gonna table it.
So the last section can go quick, but I have two more topics that I think we didn't, right? So we had the email, it was January board meeting date, and in-person days.
Mhm.
So
Switch
this
to
is the
flex.
Southwest, that item is the Southwest calendar.
Okay, so I guess, how much time do we think we need for that so we can decide? Are you guys needing a break?
We're near the end, I think we can.
We can push through? Okay, good. So the January board meeting date, can we take that one next?
Sure, it was just a question about whether you wanted to switch. The January board meeting is currently set for
The 10th, right?
The
10th.
Yeah.
The 17th is a holiday, so it's just only a week after we come back from break, and we usually get going on the agenda and the packet in time to get that packet out to you Thursday morning, and the agenda gets closed off on the 5th. So it's just really tight to
tight.
get a good agenda together and a good packet together.
What
It
about
could push
the-
us to have a short agenda.
What about the 18th? I
I
mean,
think that was
Does
a,
it have to be Monday?
well, the Tuesday was a prep day,
Uh,
teacher prep day,
Yeah, that's a semester on prep day for the teachers.
okay,
so
we prefer not to. Okay. Sorry?
Lisa has a.
Well, the 18th, we have interviews, and I have to be at the interview, so I won't be able to come here
Okay,
and tell you
okay.
about the MSA, day at MSA.
So thank you. The other option was the 24th, is that what you're saying?
Right, I mean,
It's fine
it's
for me
really
too.
up to you, I just know that it's gonna be a tight squeeze to
Yeah.
get, the agenda and the packet ready for, posting.
This
I would
also,
rather have a good packet than a fast packet.
Yeah.
this, the early meeting this month caused problems with the finance meeting. We didn't, delaying our financials, so we'd have that 2 months in a row, and I don't wanna do that, so I'd support the 24th.
Anyone else concerned with the 24th? You guys
I will not be
I
able to
wouldn't be
make
there.
the 24th.
cannot make it? Okay.
I think because, and the 25th is open house, so that's too late nights for us too.
Yeah, 2 12-hour days in a row is a little rough.
When's the meeting in February?
I was looking for that too, I don't see it.
February meeting, that's a good question, because the 21st is a holiday.
Hang on.
We
Oh,
have,
it's on the 22nd.
we
is
have
what
that one
mine
on the
says.
22nd,
Oh.
on a Tuesday.
When is your finance meeting, out of curiosity?
We have it scheduled for the 3rd.
The 3rd
So
of January?
the most we'd be able to hope for is to discuss November's results, and then we'd have our finance, or we'd be able to discuss December and January's finances at the February finance meeting. Which is doable, now we got we're getting double whammied with those early meetings.
Mhm.
So 18th is not, and the 24th and 25th are not good days for folks? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, we have open
25th is
house.
open house.
25th is open house, okay. 24th is the interview day.
The 18th.
18th is an interview day.
Oh, okay.
24th isn't anything, it's just that Maggie and Michelle can't make it. And
Yeah.
teachers will have 2 long days,
Okay.
which is, sometimes happens.
So I guess if we leave it the 10th, then the alternative is we have to rush an agenda a bit.
How about the 11th? Does an extra day help? Or the 13th? I mean, are there other nights that week for January?
Yeah, I think an extra day or 2
13th, yeah.
or 3 helps.
I could do the 13th. Lisa has another comment.
I have interviews on the 13th.
Would the 11th work? Tuesday the 11th, yeah.
One extra day. It's not a big help from the agenda, but, I mean, any day I guess could help.
And our next
Selfishly, the
meeting-
10th is my birthday, so
Ah.
not that I don't want to be with all of
Okay.
you.
yeah.
We were going to celebrate it though.
Now,
A special meeting just for you.
Nice.
I cannot do the 11th.
Okay. Can you celebrate on Tuesday?
Oh, I don't really care.
Okay.
It's
Well, again.
I've had too many birthdays already, I don't need any more.
I guess can everyone make the 10th as it is scheduled right now? And I don't know, Jennifer's not here, but then maybe we just leave it. I'm just asking you guys, I mean, because it sounds like everyone's got conflicts. I'd rather have the people here And I agree, Eric, I don't wanna rush the agenda. I think we're getting better at it, but let's take it at the plus minus. So we leave it as is, and we'll figure out how to get everything sorted when we get back.
That sounds good.
Just to make sure, when you say rush the agenda, I mean, we would normally have the agenda out the third or before, so, I mean, it's,
I think it's
Right,
because of.
it's just,
just the
I'm
break.
I mean, it's not
Because of
just
the
a
break.
compressed time
This
for
is
you
more
to
on
do it.
me, because I'm actually trying to take the holiday
Well,
break
you
off.
should,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I mean, it's not just that it's compressed, it's
Please.
literally, we would actually have to start working on it on the week of the 27th. I mean, to-
Yeah,
We all
because we
need
should be
And
taking a
for you to
break.
get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
agenda,
yeah.
and it just doesn't, I don't know.
So-
I mean, I don't wanna miss two people, I mean, if I were you two, I'd be, but it just doesn't seem like enough time.
So let's leave it, we'll sort it out. We can
Well,
maybe,
maybe,
Well, I
you know,
feel,
Well, I'm not gonna look at your email on the 31st to see if your agenda is right,
Likewise,
so.
which is why we should
Looking
just,
at it, I mean, if you're looking at January, when it comes to the agenda, how is the 12th looking?
the 12th.
Wednesday the 12th.
Oh, I teach that night, I wouldn't be able
Okay.
to make
I
it.
also have Wednesday commitments, yeah.
Well, in this is like, everybody's schedules are,
That's the problem.
Okay, the
particularly
10th it
jigsaw.
is, and we will just know that it's
What-
okay if it's not.
Well, what I'll do
perfect.
is I'll send out a reminder, well, like before Christmas, to say, here's kind of what's, I can do that, I can send it out and say, here's what we would normally talk about at a January meeting, right? And
I just wanna make sure that you don't
I
feel
know, I
like you're
feel that
burdened
too.
with a bunch of work if you're.
no, I
wanting
think
to
as
take a little
long
bit.
as I've got office staff who are working during the holiday, because, you know, maybe Sean will be working, I don't know, but I'll check with him, as long as I've got office staff to do most of that legwork. I mean, I sat with him, we did this together, now he's ready to do it.
Okay.
But I mean, I would be willing to do the 20, I know you two can't, but I would be willing to do two, like, would you? I mean, if it means, you know, they're not here, but we protect a more beefier board meeting, otherwise February's gonna be very long, and to make sure that you have time off. And, no, I'm serious, I would, so I don't know. I
Cause
feel like
it
we
kinda, when we do it January 10th, then it's like 6 weeks before the
Next one.
February one.
I feel like I would be willing, I mean, I think we go for the 24th, that's what I feel. I know we're missing two people,
I
but,
teach every Wednesday.
Yeah.
and that way we've had a month of, and past the holidays, and we, you know, 'cause it's gonna take us, we're all like deer in the headlights that first week anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't even imagine putting something together that week, right? We're
I'm
like,
open to either.
so, I don't know, how do
I'm
you
open
feel
to
if we went ahead with it, would you be all right?
I'm fine
Lisa
with
has
it.
that.
And you
Because
too?
Well, if it's just me on the 18th, then you should have it, because it's more important that you guys are here, but then I need to make sure that if I email you out about what the expectations are about the day at MSA, that you will ask me questions so that we can be on the same page, you know? I just wanted to talk to you about it and so we understood, so. But if I'm the only one, then no.
Well, the 18th we're off, and so we're already home with the workday.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's better to be here on the 20, I'd rather kick two late nights.
The
personally.
24th? Is
Yeah.
that
I'd rather do the 24th, and
I
then
would
that would
too.
allow us to move the finance meeting to January 10th.
So we would then maybe have 7 out of 9 of the board
Yeah.
members?
Oh, we only need a 5, I mean, don't let it, not
No,
that,
it's true,
but-
I agree.
but I just feel like to try and
Maggie,
get
you're
7
okay,
of us to
and
do this.
Michelle, you're
is not
okay?
easy.
Oh, yeah, totally, like, it's not hinging on
No.
me or anything,
Okay.
it's just,
It's fine.
just
All
part of
right,
the
well,
discussion.
for the board, it would be-
And if you get the agenda out
It would be
early,
better.
so
It'd be
that
better.
if there
Yeah.
are questions or
And for-
comments that we can make,
Exactly.
then we
To
can do
give
that.
people
Okay.
off for break.
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah.
It's a good point.
So I'll make
Yeah.
a motion that
We
we
can
move
find
it,
Sandy very easily.
we move the board meeting for January to the 24th, same time, different night.
I'll
Can I get a
second that.
second? All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, great, so 24th.
Cecilia, I could see
So
the
Cecilia,
smile.
can you help get the webpage
Yep.
updated too?
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
And then we'll talk about the finance.
Yeah, then you'll have enough time to.
We did talk about, and I think the comment came up from Eric about maybe getting MSA calendar invitation out, just so we don't,
Yeah,
we don't
I
miss
thought I would
days. so-
Maybe get Mr. Parker to do that today, but we ran out of time.
That's
so-
okay, but I think that's a good
That'd be
idea,
really nice.
a good practice, yeah. Just so, for those of us not at MSA, we can get a little reminder.
Who was the
Because that was
second?
an
I didn't
actual
get that.
Zoom meeting.
Eric seconded.
Okay,
And the last one was
Yes.
the in-person days flex learning?
So, we learned that Southwash is going to look at changing their calendar at their board meeting coming up on the 16th to swap out some in-person days for, they're gonna close on January 3rd, so teachers can prepare to do some upcoming days as flex learning days, asynchronous, kids are at home, kids are not at school. They're doing it because of the stress on staff of the pandemic. So, one of you had the good thought to say, well, our teachers are stressed too. It's been stressful to have this pandemic drag on. We're adding stress because we're making changes and asking new questions and doing things differently than they've been done. We're doing okay, but we've been short on subs, so teachers have been filling in for each other on their prep times, and, kids are squirrely. We have more behavior problems this year than probably, I don't know ever, but in recent times, and we're working on that, but we're spread thin, we're tired, and so we thought, well, we should come forward and consider, do we want to consider any of these changes? Now, a couple important things to know. Southwash has determined they will continue to bus their charter schools and private schools on the days that they're closed, and they will not charge us. So I know in the past, some people were concerned that they were going to charge. Now, for next year, if we made changes to our calendar that don't match theirs, they would charge us because we did it knowingly. But this is not our, fault. The other thing you need to know is we currently have the lowest number of school days allowed by state law. We cannot close. So we could not close on January 3rd because we don't have a single day to spare. We're at the bottom of the barrel. So what we could do is consider, so we don't have a day that teachers could take to get ready for flex learning because we cannot close on the 3rd. But we could consider taking some of their flex days. They have like 5 or something. My thinking is this is a balance between getting staff a breather and not burdening our parents. So I don't have any strong suggestion except for that I think it could be helpful to us to have some number of these days also become flex learning days for our students and teachers, to give them a little breather. We also have a lot of things. I know it's still hard. You still have to do teaching and you still have to do preparing. We also could maybe find some additional time to meet about some of these things that we need to meet about. We don't have currently enough time in the way our schedule works to have staff meetings, all staff meetings, department meetings, grade level meetings. They each only come once a month and only for an hour at the most. So, potentially if we added some flex learning days, we could squeeze in some additional meetings to talk about these important things like the schedule, like AP, blah, blah, blah. So I don't have a strong suggestion. I lean toward wanting to be conservative and not taking them all. The other thing that we have to think about is we haven't hit what we probably will hit this winter where we have to switch to flex learning because we don't have enough subs, too many sick kids, too many sick staff. So if we add them all in now and then we have to find another one, we've taken too much, we've gotten greedy. So I would want us to think about being conservative and saving some for emergency. But that's my thing.
Is there a limited number?
Well, no, there's a limited number, but it's up to, we can take up to, 50% maybe?
Yeah, because we got approved by the state to do online learning for the year.
Okay.
emergency plan we filled.
Okay.
Kate and I worked on that this summer.
Yeah.
So we can, if we had to, go up to 50% of our time that way, which
It's
nobody
not good for
wants.
kids, parents will be mad, so we don't want to do that.
No, well, but under this, like, this is not ideal, but we don't have a number. Really, with these and then, and again, we have to worry about weather too.
And I think Sydney brought up the point of concern of family gatherings and COVID spikes.
Yes.
After the holidays.
So could we just say we're gonna do that first week, January 3rd, all distance? Or online or whatever?
Well, teachers don't have time to prepare,
Oh,
now
that's
they
not
have
enough
Tuesday,
time.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to prepare, and they don't have, that's 4 days, they don't have time to prepare for
That
that.
prevents a lot of sicknesses though.
Yeah, but
People
I already
are
have
gonna
units
do-
ending that week. I've got unit tests. They've been scheduled for 6 weeks.
It's
Okay.
too soon to do anything
close to
about
the end of the
January
semester.
3rd, I
Yeah.
think.
And I
To do a
see-
whole week. Not that we could, can't do periodic days, but to do like a whole week, that soon, that would.
Could we give Monday and Tuesday online?
Well, Dr. Hinton, you had
Oh, yeah.
sent out a survey with
Yeah.
some feedback. Do you
We
have
did.
some? Yeah, do you have some?
We do have some.
Do you want to?
Yeah, wait, just, so where are we at? I gotta bring us back, so,
Okay, let me just,
The question is about, we did ask staff, if we were to think about this, would you wanna have some days that were flex days instead of in person?
okay.
And then, if so, here's a list of South Wash days, which ones make the most sense to you? So that's the results that Dr. Hinton has.
So, yeah, I think that would be interesting information, I guess, to know where the teachers are at, so, but maybe just a quick one. But it's important to know where the teachers stand.
we let teachers pick up to 3 days. We were really kind of thinking more along the line that we would do 2, but that's not set in stone. People besides teachers also voted, other staff members as well. We had one person ask to maintain our current calendar. Otherwise, the days were January 14th, which is the last day of the semester. It's a Friday. We would probably have to go to the Thursday being a 7-period day instead of doing block. That was some really good feedback. It was consistently offered.
I
across
offered
the
it.
board. And you weren't the only one. There was a number of people that pointed that out. So, but that's the last day of the semester, and some people have assessments and like the blocks for the kind of finals. So we have to take that into consideration. However, it was the second most popular day to take off. So people liked the idea of having that day. The other day was February 4th. That was not real popular. February 22nd, which is the day after President's Day, I believe that's a Tuesday, and that's also a board meeting day. That was the most popular day. 75% of the staff picked that day. April 1st, not a joke, but that was one of the other days. These are all based on what South Washington County had picked. We didn't pick the days. That came in 3rd place, really tight with the January 14th. And then May 13th, there's concerns about AP tests either being given on that day or coming up quickly to that day. So there's multiple concerns about May 13th. That was low ranked as well. So the top 3 days were January 14th, February 22nd, and April 1st. So I would imagine that those are
Was
the 3 that
January
would really
3rd
be
on
under
that list?
consideration.
I can't remember, it was
No.
January 3rd?
No, January 3rd was not on our list.
Oh.
No, January 3rd, because that is, Southwash is closing on the 3rd.
Okay,
We
so that's
can't
how they
close on that
classified
day.
it, they are not having class.
Right.
Right, but they have 4 more school days than we do, so they can afford to cancel a day, completely
Right.
cancel.
And our
We
benefit, what we gain is, because we're switching then to flex learning, right, because we cannot close.
Correct.
So the benefit that we get, because there's the pain is the parents need to now find some way to manage the students, right?
That's
Flex
right.
learning means they're at home.
Yep.
Right.
Also,
That means
the
they're at
parents-
home.
It
The-
just
Yeah, the
goes
students
right.
are at home, and sometimes the parents would then also have to be
How
at
is that
home.
different from asynchronous?
It is.
It's the
It
same
is,
thing.
it is.
Oh,
It's just
same
a-
term.
It's just a
Okay.
freshening,
Okay,
the same
thank you.
thing. It's like Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are
last
we,
Friday.
I guess, what are we gaining? I'm not clear on the gain. Is the
What we
gain mental?
gain by having some number of days where students are in flex learning or asynchronous learning instead of here in person is the teachers could even stay home and teach, or they're here and teach, but the kids are at home. Like, it's a little calmer, the pace is a little slower, it's just a little breather, it's just a little TLC for the staff who are
Because-
pretty stressed.
Sorry to interrupt, because I've heard both. I've heard it's also stressful for the teachers to flip it and do some extra work. So I want to know, what are we getting for the,
Well, but according to that, there was only one person who wasn't interested in it. It's one
Right.
thing to do it on the fly like it was Friday.
Yeah.
It's another to know,
plan.
okay, April first,
Okay.
I know is gonna be asynchronous. So as I'm looking toward April, I'm thinking, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I know what kind of a day I will do.
because I mean, I can definitely see a benefit to like getting out of the office, right? I mean, being able to have a break just from your normal routine, and that's a mental breather, so, okay, so.
April 1st is like 4 months from now. Is that actually exciting for the teachers? to
Yeah.
Yes.
be
Tired.
4
April
months from now?
Oh, yeah.
April's a rough
Anything.
month.
Okay.
April's a big testing month, like MCU, you know what I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of coordination that the counselors and the admin team do. for
I'm not saying
testing
because
stuff.
I don't think that it would be
No, no,
exciting,
it's-
just that feels like really far away. Is there something closer that might
We
be more
succeeded
beneficial?
the marshmallow test.
I,
I
But
think it's
the
nice
nice-
to have it further out.
The nice thing about it a little bit further out is it gives parents plenty of time to prepare too, if need be. So because I feel rushed for January, just for us now making a decision for January, it feels rushed.
I was just gonna ask the
Rushed
parent
anyway.
team member, the parent members here, is January 14th too close?
So if my children were younger, 6th grade, 7th grade, I personally would feel a little more anxious. I'd have to get plans in place. Whereas mine are a little bit older, so I feel like they could manage. But for those parents that don't work at home and have younger children, that would be, I think we're putting a little stress on them for a January date. Whereas a February or thereon, I think we've given them a month and a half notice to say we need a break, our teachers need a break. I feel like that's a good balance.
Yep, and teachers will have their holiday break, so they will have some refreshment, coming from that, so.
From the
to
December,
Have
yeah.
some sprinkled out there later.
And that is already a long weekend, because that's leading up to Martin Luther King, and then there's no school on the 18th. So that would turn it into we're all working on that day, but into a 5-day non-in-school day, weekend.
Which
Also,
weekend was that again? Sorry.
January
The 14th. And I also wonder, for staff, I mean, that's not that many days out, it's the end of the semester. I haven't been here on the end of the semester, but people can have some plans for how they tend to end the semester. Block day
That's true.
may be
That's true.
part of those plans, and
Oh,
I
mine
don't know.
is.
Yeah.
Mine 100%
So I-
is.
But
One
I
more.
mean, I'm concerned that people might have voted without really thinking about, just thinking, oh,
That it was the
5-day
end of the
weekend, not
yeah.
really thinking about it's the end of the semester is my concern.
One more quick question, Dan. I know we're
Yeah.
getting short on time. Does that also affect extracurriculars? So if it's a flex day, it's like my daughter has basketball practice on the 14th, would she still have that? And then we would have to get her to school versus she's already here?
Well, it would be up to the coaches, but there's potentially games and
Okay.
everything else on those days.
So there are maybe some complexities
Sure.
if there are
Yes.
flex days.
Yeah. That was the ones the Friday one, that one was what I wanted to know whether or not it was gonna be blocks. Then on
Can
like
you do
Wednesday,
the
Thursday.
block Wednesday, Thursday, and then the flex day on Friday?
We can do almost anything, it's just a question of how messy does it get? The more and more changes we make, the messier and messier it gets.
Could I-
And so, something that seems simple, like changing around lunches, gets really messy when it's midstream. It's easy to change it in August, it's hard to change it in
Yes.
January.
Could I just make a
Yeah.
I like the idea that the board is kind of supporting our teachers here in this particular situation that we're all in, right? And then we're also trying to balance the needs of the parents watching this. So I'm just a proposal is maybe like 1 or 2 days that we can say, please choose the most impactful days that happen after January. So if it's a February or if it's a March or if it's an April or something, just to throw out a proposal for you guys to say, we're gonna try to support your mental health.
February, that April. What's the February?
February and
February
April.
22nd and
February
April
22nd,
1st.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking.
And
So-
there is a benefit to get away from snow days, because,
Yes.
I know we have, I don't know, in South Washington County, but in St. Paul, there was been April snow days.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A little crazy.
The March
So
is
yeah.
our snowiest month in
Right,
Minnesota.
but it kind of gets us closer to that springtime.
Yep.
Can we
I
get
can-
a
I think
second?
that-
We can discuss a little further.
I'll
Feb-
second.
Okay. So I made the motion for February and April,
Yep.
the two top,
February
the two
22
top days
for one.
Yeah.
would
So-
be flex days.
So flex days.
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous?
It's
Sorry.
asynchronous. You said something, maybe I just misunderstood. I mean, there will be no students here, right? They don't have an option. In
Right.
fact,
They all need-
students don't have teachers don't have an option. The school will be absent of any.
Staff
You can be here.
Staff can
Well,
work
yes, the
here
teachers could
or
teach
from
from here.
home, I would think,
Okay.
but, the students will need to stay home
Okay.
and sign into their Google Classroom.
Okay, so two other comments in the past. So one of the reasons I think 833 is doing it for the 3rd is they are encouraging people to get tested. So it'll give them an extra day to see the results.
Yeah.
So that is a huge piece of it. And the other piece of it is we've often followed 833 because families have students that go to 833 and here.
Yeah.
So, we just thought it might be easier that if your kids are gonna be home from 8:33 or vice versa, that you want all your kids doing the same thing. I don't think those are super strong, but two other things that could
Could
be
be
noted.
noted.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's important to know, and also important to know is they have 4 more in-person days than we
Yeah.
do. So we really need to look at our calendar for next year to see how that.
We would have to add days for sure. I think that's what we don't do.
Yeah,
We
we
don't-
wanna do that.
Again, and again, this is one of those things where I don't know if you know how to ask the question. So it kind of has to do with, we don't get paid as much. Our schedule, you know what our schedule's like. We have always gone to as few calendar days as we can because of those things. And we feel like our test scores and our student success show that it's okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
That's where
Thank you for
we're
sharing
coming
that.
from, and not that we can't, and so, we've had years where we have snow days, we have them too. But part of choosing this calendar in particular was because last year was so
Yeah,
hard.
I can totally understand that,
So-
and that's why I'm advocating for us to get some days, but
Yes.
that, it helps out that explanation.
Yes.
So, yeah, good. Any other discussion on that proposal? Would that is that a fair proposal? We
That'd
have
be
a
very
first and a
nice.
second?
And I think
Okay,
I
even
just-
with those 2 days though, if there's too many sick teachers or not subs and whatnot, it would have to fall into a distance.
we would go to
We would
distance,
do
which
an
is-
That's different.
emergency distance learning, so it's in, that,
Just-
as an
But
emergency, it
just
wouldn't be.
clarifying that it's
Yeah.
different.
Or weather.
Good.
So
Yeah.
Eric,
That
that's
makes sense.
completely different, if we go to distant learning, we're in person on Zoom during class time
Mhm.
versus this is asynchronous. So if we end up getting shut down because of like sickness, then we teach from home, just like we did last year, versus an impromptu one, yeah.
If
Michelle?
we're short-staffed, the emergency one is still asynchronous. So like
The
if we're short.
first one, but if we end up shutting down for a
Oh,
lengthy
yeah,
period
like
of
Yep,
time,
like a week.
Yeah.
Yes.
which we hope, please no. but-
So that one still, that plan still has to be in place. This is, it's like a planned that version, but we're doing it for mental health, and I can support that. So I
That
guess,
is exactly
can I
what-
push it to a vote, see if we can get to this one?
I
if
have
not-
one other point,
Yeah, go
one
ahead.
question mark. Part of the thing we're looking at it is that, yeah, it's an asynchronous day and it allows us to have some of the meetings that we do need to have, which I totally get, but at the same time, if we're trying to prevent staff burnout and do those things, I think that those would need to be used cautiously and really judiciously in terms of topics.
I agree.
Because saying we have a flexible learning day, but we have 4 hours of meetings is not helpful. Regardless, I know that they're needed, but like we could distribute them some other way, because that I think would kind of burn out anybody's potential piece.
Yep, for sure.
Could you repeat the motion before we vote?
So I think we said we would like to do flex days
On February 22nd and
and
April
April
1st.
1st.
And,
Both. So we're proposing 2 for mental health. I don't know if we need to include that, but it almost is, that's the reason why we're doing this, right?
And that's why Southwash did it too.
Yes.
It's not like
and those are 2 of the 2, or out of the 4 days that Southwest.
that they're doing it.
2 of their 6.
2 of the 6.
I like that the 2 still gives us some wiggle room in case we have like emergency
Yep.
days occur.
Yep. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Good. So I think that was a good discussion, guys. Thanks for bringing it up, whoever brought that up. I think that's good. Okay, I think that's the last on the discussion items, correct? So
Yep.
we have now just future items. Strategic plan review is never done, but we have a good place to work from. So I'm gonna say that one is, we did a good job there, guys, well done. Staff contract format, we,
A little behind, but maybe I can catch up by then.
okay, well, but take a
If,
break
Jim
over.
Martin can
We
catch
need
up
to-
by then.
And were you the one that were gonna help us with this one, or? Yes. Well, I remember we had some legal questions, and we were waiting on that one till we had kind of a
We
straw
were gonna
dive.
draft something for
Yes.
Jim, so
Okay.
I just am behind.
Okay, I would say on the,
Plates.
sorry?
All the plates.
Yeah.
Tons of plates.
So that one is still coming. We have it for first quarter. I mean, it's gonna come faster than we think. So that's what happened to us last year was, I think.
What is
for
the
the-
deadline? What is the deadline for this? Like
So
the hard
technically,
date?
I mean, it would be nice to have the teachers have had a chance to review the changes. So, and then we also wanted to have a lawyer review the changes. So the deadline is when we kind of re-sign folks for the following year, which is March-ish, yeah.
March what?
If it's not,
If
we
there's
don't
no
have
specific
anything
date.
that's in, because we're not union, we
Yeah.
don't have a union contract.
So the
that
last day in
says-
March.
We'll get there.
Well,
Well,
I think at some point
it's
at,
been
at,
June.
at our one board meeting, we approve
The contract renewals.
contract renewals, so.
I'm thinking about a perspective of your time and the energy that you would put into it, because you're right, there's lots of plates that are in the air right now. So if we had a date that we said, this is where we should probably have this done, it gives you a chance to prioritize it or deprioritize it if there's other things. That's all I was thinking about, was I don't want that hanging over your head like a cloud if you knew the date and then we had a timeline to get there. That's all.
I don't want to be overly confident, but I think now that we've moved our board meeting to the 24th of January, we can have a draft.
That'd be
We're
fabulous.
gonna need a few meetings, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
That's
thank you.
fabulous.
Thank you.
The next one, the DEI, if you will, for priority, I feel like we've done a good job with that one, getting it in our mission and vision as of tonight. So well done, everyone. And then expansion, question?
I think that, and I would like to probably suggest Regina Seabrook, but there's a couple of other amazing people. But I think our board needs some cultural inclusivity training. The teachers have it as part of their things, but I think that is what one of our board workshop needs to be. Regina Seabrook is amazing,
Okay.
absolutely wonderful. She's not the only person, but I've attended a couple of her trainings, and she was one of our MSA parents. But she's amazing, and she works with a company that's their focus. But I would recommend one of our diversity, equity, inclusion would be for us to also do cultural inclusivity training.
Can you see if she could make our January 24th one? I know you may not. Or the February one.
Could we,
I can forward you her
it would
information.
be good for us to be a little more planful if we, thoughtful if we get just one shot. I want to have consistency in staff training and board
Okay.
training.
I love it.
But anyways, so I captured it as an item. I think that's a good suggestion, and we can align with the staff as well, yeah.
That'd be like a workshop training we're thinking.
That's what the proposal, I think that's a good one.
In some fashion, or, that we need to also have.
Cause I believe in January, I will be running a
I think that's the
half-hour-
finance.
half hour for finance.
That's right.
So,
I agree, it might take a little time to make sure that it syncs up with what you're planning for staff and teachers, because this is hugely complex. And I want that folks that are bringing in some sort of, plan, because they could be all over the place. And we need consistency.
Last one here is the expansion decision. So by second quarter, we need to kind of be marching towards making some decisions for expansion if we're to keep our same timeline of when we want to move in. So the expansion committee will come back with kind of more monthly updates, and then we'll have, probably need to spend some more time in the second quarter together with the board just on the decisions we need to make to keep the timing. So. Okay, that's it. Plus, minus, I'll let you guys, that's item 16 for me. What worked well, what didn't this month, sorry.
I'll start. Since all of us have computers now, if we're moving to a digital format, we need to have some power strips here, so we can all plug in. Cause I'm gonna die in, I have a half hour left,
Okay,
but.
yeah, that's right.
If it's a long one, you'll be out.
what else worked or didn't?
I think to move to digital was a plus. I found it very nice. It was super nice to be able to click right in and just review it quickly and then go back. Maybe not for you, a little bit of a minus on your note taking, but
No,
I think it was a plus.
So I mean, I'm a big Apple fan, but I have the agenda here and then I can click and it comes up on it. It's perfect for me.
Yeah,
So
that's
this
awesome.
actually worked really well. The thing, like I said, I don't know how to take notes in this document, and I don't want to because you guys would all see my notes too. So, but I like the fact that I could click through and if there was, I don't know, it could be kind of updated. The risk is it could also be changed from when I saw it last, so that was a risk that if we have it in that folder, I'm not saying we would do it,
Right.
maliciously, but it could be changed versus the version that I read, so that is a little risk.
It was less intimidating to sit down and read,
Yeah.
because I didn't see like 219
Yeah.
pages, so it was less intimidating.
And it went much quicker for me for that reason, I think.
I know.
because
No, it
It didn't feel as long.
It's all a
It didn't feel
mental
as long.
game, right?
Go ahead,
better.
I
Cecilia.
did have Sean send it as a PDF earlier today, so we can, that was
perfect.
me being behind because I added the PowerPoint and a bunch of things, but I think, if we get the PDF
Yeah.
out on a Monday morning, maybe that would be more helpful.
Yep, so for me, I kind of use the weekend to
So
review
we
it.
sent the draft, so we were trying to get it out on a Thursday. We can send it as a PDF so you can start marking it.
I would like to get us to the final version on that Friday. And the reason is because if I'm working from a draft and we've had a few changes, I always feel like I'm trying to catch up a little bit from the people who read it on Monday. And I have work on Monday through, normally. So it's hard for me even to see the MSA emails that come
Yeah.
out right before. So
I'm
I can try,
open
but I
to
can't
whatever.
guarantee that I can always read another packet that came out Monday to see what's changed.
I think the main thing is I want us to be able to get a draft of the packet out and give board members enough time to skim it at least to see, did we miss anything, are there any errors? That's my worry, but I'm open to anything.
This is, one thing I'd like to move us towards is getting that Wednesday, right now we're saying Wednesday, please get your documents in, and then it's kind of like locked down. In my opinion, I don't think we need drafts anymore. It's like, that was the day, and if there are changes, we discuss those on the Monday and say we had to add an extra document because we missed it, that's fine. But when we've done this before, we've had the problems with 2 or 3 versions of packets, and then we're all scrambling. So, I would like to see the final one emailed out. If you guys want the full, I think the full one makes sense for the community and for our records. So on the
But I
website,
would- So that was my thing, is like, I actually have a tablet that I write on a PDF, and so, I couldn't write on it because of the link. Now, I'm the old person who comes out, every Friday I would print it, bring it home over the weekend and write notes on it, that's me. So this, I can do this, but I need to write notes on it, and it can't be linked.
And
So
write-
I would prefer the PDF on whenever.
The PDF on the
the
day.
full PDF of everything, yeah. okay.
Yes, so I would write, because then I could just,
Yeah.
even though I do see the bloody 200, whatever pages, like, but that was nice about.
Are you okay with the links?
That's what I mean, I can't write on the link, so I would need the full PDF.
I think the other thing to be careful of, like, I fully agree of having our agenda, fairly set, but there are things that come up. So I don't think anybody should feel particularly bad or guilty if something came up or there were last minute changes that, oh, okay, yeah, this is gonna happen, this has gotta be, it happens.
Yeah.
I don't like super long meetings. Nobody's a fan of super long meetings, but if there's something that comes up, it just comes up and we roll with it and that's okay.
Yeah, I guess I definitely don't want to come across as inflexible. I'm just saying I would rather that we have a process to manage that instead of kind of like throwing out everything that we've done.
Agreed.
And then we have everyone with different documents that
Right.
I'm trying to see, we're trying to see if we can improve upon that bit. So definitely, something comes on Thursday, and we just had this 8:33 discussion, that came up very late, and
Yep.
I'm glad we took the discussion, but it wasn't on my draft agenda because it came in late. But we needed to talk about it now, so it needs to be in there.
Yeah.
And I think we just talk about that verbally.
Yeah, I think as often as possible, we talk about it verbally, we add it to the tail end somehow in our meeting. Introducing those last minute changes to the packet is when all kinds of other things get messed up and errors and,
Yeah.
and it also I have to like completely set everything else aside and go work with
Clean
Sean
it
so
up,
that,
yeah.
you know, it doesn't get messed up, so.
Exactly. So I mean, it's okay for us to have our version, and if something comes up, it's an appendix or in a,
Yeah.
you know, something that's sent out without needing a whole bunch of things to be redone, but just know that we can. That
Yeah.
sometimes we need to add
I
documents.
What
think-
about a placeholder, sorry, that's just like appendix as needed or something, so then we talk about anything that was added in
That's
later.
good. I like
Maybe it's a
that.
crutch,
Or
but it,
that's the link, you know.
that could be the link to whatever, but I'm just thinking so we
Yeah.
can have a document and then, did anything come in? No, not this month, then we just move on.
Yeah.
Or two things did.
And
It's
then
gotta
as
be.
much as possible, we have to think about the open meeting law and the agenda needs to be posted,
Mm.
you know, 3 business days
Yeah.
ahead of time. And so we don't wanna be doing changes very often to the agenda.
What,
And I would agree, because, I mean, these situations or these issues that we tapped on, they happen like today.
Mhm.
So that is, you know, justification. If it's something we plain forgot and we should have really brought it up a week ago, then we should be more careful about just sticking it in, because it was our error.
And I'm not running around with the stick, I'm
Yeah,
not saying any of that to
No,
anyone,
no,
whether,
not
you know,
at
you
all,
forgot
not
it
at
next month, but I'm trying to get some more order to remind.
Dan, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, I'm teasing.
But the other thing I will say is, I was really appreciative of you guys' open, honest feedback during the strategic plan, even when it was against kind of where the group was kind of leaning towards of just accepting and moving on. So for those of you, you know, who raised your hand and said, we need to do this better, we need to do things different, please continue to do that. I even liked, and I won't single, we had one, we didn't have a unanimous vote, but I will say that's what we need to have more of, right? So, I mean, it's not normal for our group. We do have a lot of group and some of that's good, but it's also good to have a little, you know, back and forth on things, and we don't have to always agree on everything. So thanks for being open and honest with that process and not just sitting back and keeping your thoughts to yourself, so.
I can agree with that.
Yes, you can agree? Okay, good, yeah. Now we all need to agree? No. Anyone else?
I have one thing.
Yeah.
I prefer having like sub-documents that I can click on. I don't like having the text in the board packet. That really messes the flow with me, messes with the flow for me. I don't know what other people think, but
I'm with you.
like under our different subcommittees, we have some that were
On here.
on here and some that were docs, and it was confusing.
So the intention was not to confuse, but I was deliberately trying to see what you guys thought of the different formats. So it was a little test to see, and I would agree, I think I like the links better. It was cleaner, the agenda seemed smaller, more mentally able to manage. And I could just, because one thing I struggle with on the big packet is which section am I even on right now? Like who's writing about what? And I'd have to fix, because sometimes no heading, no page numbers.
Is there a way to have a link and you save, if I can save my own? And then if I do link, I could write on it?
So
Is
what
there
I
a way to
think,
do
I
that?
think we'll meet the need is not yours alone, Annie. I think we need to have a document for our records that's not this link one, because we
Yeah.
don't want to give everyone access to the board folder. So we're gonna need a big PDF anyways.
That's what's behind Kate over there, that
Yeah.
is a
I was
document that has
salivating.
everything all opened up.
So I
We can
think-
make it
Would
that way.
Cami help?
That's what I do. So what I do is I open the doc in
Yep.
Cami, and I have a tablet that I write,
Yep.
and that's what I write on
Cami,
and
I-
save it as the new download.
I have an iPad, so I just,
Yeah.
and I have a
Mark
pencil,
on
I
it.
so.
have
Yeah.
iPad, I
I
have
just
an
do
I have Mac stuff, but I don't know, this seems.
Well, I think you might have to download each, because like it's linking up, like I see these are PDFs. You'd have to download each PDF
Yeah, so
separate.
you
We'll
were
make
saying,
one,
yeah.
we'll make one.
If it's
We
long
can
as I could have it on the weekend, because I'm with him, like by Monday, I'm like YOLO, time to go. I don't even see, I have to be ready by Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
That's when I do my research.
Yes.
Yeah, and for record keeping, having a PDF with everything, I think is the way to go,
Yep.
because you don't risk having broken links over time.
Yes, that's another
Very
thing.
good point.
Is
Very good
a
point.
huge issue with some of these documents.
Yeah.
But this, I was impressed, I was thinking about, oh, I don't have the paper in my hand, but I did it, I forced
Good.
myself. But if
So-
I could have my tablet and write on it, I'd be very happy.
We saved a tree tonight, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
At least one.
10 times 200
Yes,
pages.
we're
Oh my
adding
God.
to the oxygen.
Yes,
All
good.
we're doing is burning up electrons.
Well, thanks, everyone. So I would like to make a motion to adjourn for December meeting. Second?
Second.
Cody, second. All those in favor? Say aye.
I-
Opposed? Abstain? So this, we got 8:18. Thanks, everyone. Have a happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
I had a slight desire to